Talking about SNL, the history, the mysteries, and all the hot impressions in between. Breaking down all the numbers as well. In your favorite sketches with special guests. It's on the Saturday Night Network.
Yes, welcome on in, everybody, to the Saturday Night Network for another edition of our feedback show. This time here to talk about the Finn Wolfhard, Tiana Taylor, and Alexander Skarsgård episode of Saturday Night Live. My name is Jon Schneider from the SNN. Very excited to be back with you after this January, first month of 2026, to talk about these past few episodes and preview what else is to come with Saturday Night Live. We're on an extended hiatus due to the Olympics, but we will be back with Connor Story hosting on February 28th, a couple more episodes after that, which we could potentially talk about here tonight, as well as SNL UK premiering at the end of March. So a lot happening in SNL world, and Sammy K is here to join me. Sammy, how are you?
John, I'm doing well. Excited to be here. Had a very nice weekend. Hanging with my fiance, doing some cooking classes. Doing some pottery. But I missed SNL, so I'm happy that I was able to come join you tonight to talk about these last couple episodes and talk with our patrons. So I got some good questions tonight.
Yeah, we got some great questions, so appreciate everybody sending them in. We're, of course, here as a presentation of latenighter.com. And as usual, the show will work tonight where we will have 15-minute intervals, bringing in two patrons at a time to talk through this season. They'll have some questions for us. They will answer some questions, and it'll be great to get everybody's thoughts on the season so far. This was a fun weekend, Sammy. A little bit of a boring Super Bowl, but it was nice to, have the weekend to focus on football a little bit. Did you watch the big game last night?
Yeah, I went over to my parents' house, and my sister was there with her boyfriend. And, we're not a big sports family. We're really much there for the commercials, the halftime show, which I thought was awesome. We watched the real halftime show, not the alternative halftime show.
Halftime show.
Yes. But I think the highlight of the Super Bowl for me, which, I'm not sure if you caught this trailer that aired, but the new Brad Pitt, Adventures of Cliff Booth film. It's like a sequel to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, the Quentin Tarantino movie from a couple of years ago. So they surprise dropped a trailer for that movie, and I think it looks pretty cool. So that was probably the highlight of the Super Bowl for me.
Interesting. I feel like the Dunkin' commercial where they de-aged everybody was the biggest, whoa, what the fuck is this? But I did not take that in. I think there was a lot of commercials with SNL current cast and recent cast, I would say, commercials. Bad Bunny, obviously, very close to the SNL family, did the halftime show. Did you like Bad Bunny's halftime show?
Yeah, no, I thought it was awesome. It was cool to see also, Pedro Pascal and as part of the show as well. Obviously, one of the top 50 greatest SNL hosts of all time. Of course. And Cardi B, who was obviously just on SNL a couple weeks ago. But no, I thought it was pretty sick. I mean, I've been such a huge fan of what they've been doing with the halftime shows the last couple of years. Obviously, feels like the music is more geared towards, we're now in the key demo, when we were growing up, we'd watch these legends, on the Super Bowl halftime show, but it wasn't necessarily music that I listened to. So it's cool to get to see people like Rihanna and Bad Bunny and Kendrick these past couple of years.
Yeah, for sure. And I thought it was just visually stimulating. It was so cool, everything that they did with Bad Bunny. So that was awesome. Cardi B, rumor has it, she may have left the Super Bowl after the halftime show. Unclear what the deal with that was with her and her boyfriend, Stephon Diggs. But always feels like there's
I didn't see that. That's interesting.
Yeah, but it was a really fun night, obviously, and it was cool to get to see the game, even if it wasn't the most fun game. So I think we're 2 years in a row of not great Super Bowls. Hopefully we'll get a good one next year. But yeah, of course, we'll see if any of our patrons want to talk about the Super Bowl or want to talk about SNL recently or what's to come. And very excited to kick off our show here tonight by bringing in a patron that you know very well, and I believe somebody else coming in for the first time. So first, let's bring in Max is here. Max, how are you, man?
I'm good, and I resent that comment about the last two Super Bowls being bad because last year's was awesome.
I mean, objectively, it was not a great game last year. Like, I'm happy for you, but it was notoriously a very bad game.
That's okay.
But, welcome to the show, Max. Happy to have you here. And then joining us as well. So I had her down as Hannah, but I see Frankie here. So how would you like us to refer to you? And welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you. Sorry, Frankie is how I prefer to go, but I used Google autofill on the form, and so it filled in my first name, which is Hannah. So sorry for the confusion.
Well, Frankie, welcome to the show. So nice to meet you.
Hi, nice to be here. And I'm afraid I will not be talking about the Super Bowl because I do not understand American football in the slightest. I've got to be honest.
Okay,
I love that you guys are passionate about it, but all of your comments about American football in the show is just absolutely completely.
Frankie, I live in America. I have my whole life. I'm right there with you. So
glad to hear that at least.
Yeah, no worries at all. We got a long show here tonight, so I'm sure there'll be plenty of talk about everything. But Max, if you don't mind, just because this is Frankie's first time on the show, I do just want to hear from you. Welcome to the show. Happy to have you on. How did you become a fan of Saturday Night Live and the podcast?
So Saturday Night Live really for me was the Lonely Island YouTube era. You know, I think a lot of us, I was at school at the time and suddenly people were sharing all of these videos and singing them, and it was weird and it was funny and it was the cool thing to be doing. And then it got to the 2021 lockdown, which we had in the UK, and I don't think you guys did. And that season, which was maybe 46, I'm not sure, where it became a little Sunday ritual to me because life was awful. That I would get up, and here in the UK they're posted overnight, so I would get up at like first thing in the morning, and it was like, oh, this is what makes a Sunday different than Saturday and Friday and every other day of the week, which is starting to feel like the same. And that's when I started getting more into it and discovered the podcast a year ago, and finally had somewhere to listen to other people who were passionate about SNL, and particularly numbers. I like stats. So sorry, that was a very long answer. That's my long history of SNL.
No, it was great. That's perfect. And I love it because I know that, Max, you're a big statistics guy yourself, and that's how you got into a lot of the things that we do here, because you relate SNL to sports the same way I do. So
yes, very much.
Yeah, very cool. Well, Frankie, I want to hear what you think of the season, but I'm going to head over to Max first. So Max, how are you feeling about the last month of Saturday Night Live? And is there anything that you want to talk about during your time here?
I'm feeling good. I mean, I think, we can ignore the Tiana Taylor kind of back talk because it's been discussed ad nauseum. It was a bad episode, but it could have been really good if they made the right decisions. But for three kind of wild card hosts, I was really impressed with all of them. Like, I didn't know what to expect for any of them. I thought we got two really good episodes, and then the one that we don't have to talk about as much. But yeah, I was happy with everything.
Yeah, I feel like overall consensus was Finn Wolfhard, maybe the most polarizing episode. Tiana Taylor, notoriously not so great, and then Alexander Skarsgård, beloved episode. So it was just a weird month of Saturday Night Live with a lot of ups and downs. Frankie, how are you feeling about the last month of SNL?
Yeah, absolutely the same. I think the Tiana Taylor episode actually made me realize that I've become used to a really nice season. I've been enjoying this season, and I think as SNL fans, sometimes you're going to watch an episode whether it's going to be great or not, and sometimes you come into it going, oh, I hope tonight's good. And actually, I think I realized the past season I've been coming into it expecting it to be good, and it was a bit of a letdown. And I was like, oh, this is how I felt in previous seasons, every single episode. And actually, for me, it's been a reminder of how much I've been enjoying season 51.
It's true. Sammy, I feel like the episodes that don't hit harder in a good season. Like, it's more noticeable. Did you feel the same way this past month?
Yeah, I mean, I think overall, I was on the Hot Take show for the Tiana Taylor episode, and I feel like I was maybe the one on the panel who most liked the episode. And I think as somebody who was such a big fan of her in One Battle After Another and, just her music over the years, I appreciate what she brought to the show. But then, the week went on and we get all these dress rehearsal sketches posted, and I'm like, oh, this episode could have been way better. So it's weird how that happens. I do feel like we are in such a great groove with the show right now that it's certainly more noticeable. And also just the way that in the internet age, we sort of interact with the show. We just know so much more about, what made it, what didn't make it. And so to kind of know, what could have been, definitely, I feel like can hamper some of our thoughts on the show we actually get.
Yeah, that's very true. I mean, I always think that some of the most fascinating aspects of talking about Saturday Night Live is just the general perception of an episode as time goes on. So you could feel a certain way the night of or 24 hours later. But I always find it really fun to be like, 5 years ago, how did everyone feel about this episode? And does it really hold up that way? That's, like some of the greatness of this show, that you can go back and watch these things as a time capsule. Max, was there anything from the last few weeks or stuff that's coming up that you wanted to talk about with us here today?
I was curious, with the spirit of the Super Bowl, if there are any athletes who haven't yet hosted, like active current athletes that haven't yet hosted, that you would want to see host SNL. Because I was thinking like Sam Darnold's not going to host, Kenneth Walker not going to host, but like who that is active, do you think would be a good SNL host?
So from the NFL, there's not a lot of people that I think would do it at this point. It just doesn't feel like we have that Tom Brady, Peyton Manning star. I know that Kelsey just did it a few years ago. But, I feel like they're not going to go back to that same well. Like Heidi's no longer at the show to sort of push for that to happen. So I think you probably have to start looking to other sports at this point. And I don't know that like there's a sports figure that rises above the rest the way that they did before. So I have to really think about this. It's definitely something that we've discussed in the past, but I just feel like it was so obvious which athlete was going to host Saturday Night Live at a certain point when you had your like LeBron and Michael Jordans and all that. It doesn't necessarily feel that way right now. Frankie, I know you're not a big football fan, at least American football, but is there any athletic person that you think you would want to see host the show at some point?
I mean, yeah, definitely not a big fan. I learned about the Kelsey brothers because he was hosting, and I was like, who is this Kelsey person people are talking about? And that was the first time I'd ever heard of. I think it'll be really interesting to see. Obviously, currently we've got the Olympics, and that's the delay. And if maybe someone American becomes really famous in there, coming out of that could be really interesting to watch. Of course, I would love to see other sports more international, but I think realistically, that's at the moment the potential for another athlete. I can't think of someone else. I agree with you that there doesn't seem to be like someone sticking their head above the parapet.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's just not as obvious as it used to be, and I feel like that's probably just how media is in general. But I think Jared hit something good in the chat, which was Caitlin Clark, which I think was the one that we were talking about, appeared on Weekend Update a little while ago. She was just, I think she was just brought on by NBC to be an NBA basketball announcer and be on their panel. So she hasn't come close yet, but she's clearly been one of the best WNBA players the last couple of years. If she was to win a WNBA championship, I feel like that would make sense. It's like the right calendar for that, where their championship, I think, is in October. So they sort of have that break during the year that she could host. I think that like people would be clamoring for something like that. So that's probably the direction I would go, Max. Sammy, I know you're not a big sports guy. So any pick you want to make here, or should we pass on to the next question?
I can still name names. I still,
okay.
I'm tapped in. I mean, I still think Steph Curry is one that maybe at this point should have happened already. So I don't know if that is something that will. Obviously, he recently worked with Ego Wodum on a Peacock show. I'm not sure if that's coming back, but he's trying to dip his toe a little bit more into acting. So there's that. Somebody from Detroit, obviously the Lions have been, a team that at this point could potentially go to a Super Bowl. I mean, that would be amazing. So, Jared Goff, he's a handsome guy. I don't know if he's the most charismatic person, but I feel like, we've had people, host a show who are athletes who, don't maybe on paper seem like somebody who, could be a great actor. So, but I think that would be a historic moment.
You're right. I do think that generally basketball players host the premiere of a season like LeBron or MJ because of their schedule. So I think, you'd have to have somebody who really moves the needle. I think that Steph is a little bit, he's performing just like he's in his prime, but I think like the movement to have him host is a little bit late for something like that. Frankie, I want to go to you. Do you have anything else that you want us to talk about? Any questions that you brought to the show here tonight?
Yeah, it was kind of related to what we were talking about earlier and about this season being good and maybe some dips around the last couple episodes. I was really curious, why do you think, at least from my perspective, that it's been so far a really good season? And in comparison to 50, I think maybe I came into 50 with higher expectations. Do you think I was just let down by my higher expectations and shouldn't have been that optimistic? Or do you think this season is actually more consistent? And if so, why?
I think it is more consistent. I do think that turnover is always good for the show. I think that, like, if everything goes right, the show can just hold steady. But I don't think that everything was going right into 50. And I think because of the election and the 50th, they just felt like they needed to just stick with their current cast and not do anything too crazy. And I think that Lorne made a lot of good decisions in the summer of just saying, and I don't necessarily agree with all of the people he let go, but I think that he made a good decision in that he felt like there needed to be some sort of refreshing of the cast. Sammy, how did you feel about the change between 50 and 51? Like, what do you give as the main reason for the success of this season so far?
Yeah, I think turnover is definitely a big part of it, but also just think about the last couple of years of the show. There's just been so much from a global standpoint that's impacted just entertainment in general, between COVID and then, COVID coming back, and then the writer's strike and the actors strike and the election, and the fact that the election and SNL 50 were, the same season. And there's just so much going on with the show. I feel like we're finally at like a normal season, and that normal season has also coincided with, some cast members leaving who, were still kind of finding their footing, some veterans leaving, a big veteran with Bowen leaving mid-season. So I just think there's a lot of room for some fresh voices, and we're actually leaning on those fresh voices. And it's not the Keenan show or the Mikey Day show necessarily just because they're the longest tenured cast members. They're really utilizing, the bench more.
And look, I think if Lorne was so confident in the cast last year, he wouldn't have brought in all of the alumni to stay as long as they did, to have Dana there for most of the fall, Andy Samberg making digital shorts, having Maya around. Like, it just, I think he wanted to do it for the 50th, but also I don't know that he felt like we were in this like perfect era that maybe he thought he would be in a few years earlier. Max, anything that you credit this season with doing right?
I mean, I think overall I just agree with Sammy. Like, I think the cast feels like they can breathe. Like, the cast and writers, like we said, there's no big cameos coming in every week. There's no election. There's no SNL 50. There's no writer strikes. There's no, like, outside of the cold opens being the cold opens every week. Like, I think the cast is just, for once in a few years, getting a chance to breathe, do what they want to do with no like added pressure. And I think it's benefiting everyone.
Yeah, and it also helps that there is one cast member who is just shining higher than any cast member we've seen in the last few years. I don't think that's all because of Ashley, but I do think that there is something to be said that the show does really well when they have a star that you can rely on week to week to produce great content. So that's certainly a part of it, Frankie, I would think. Frankie, I would also be remiss not to ask you about SNL UK. Is that something that's on your radar, and are you excited?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. I am very excited. I think I've got to be honest, there is no one in the UK I've talked to who's optimistic.
Okay.
Which I think there is nothing more British than being completely pessimistic about anything working and being snotty about it. So, but I'm really excited. I think there's a lot of, even just like, talking about the Super Bowl and things. And there is sometimes episodes I open of SNL and I just don't have a clue what they're referring to in a monologue or in a weekend update. And it would be really interesting to see that with my own context. And, like today, I'm sure it hasn't come up in the US, but it was absolutely bonkers day in British politics. Our Prime Minister almost resigned. So it's getting blank looks from you guys.
I don't know.
So I'm really excited to see that.
Well, I'd love to learn about it.
Are you guys excited as well?
Yeah, I don't know if you had a chance to listen to our preview for SNL UK that we did last week with the cast members. Yeah. Did we do okay with that?
Yeah, I absolutely loved it. Some of your pronunciations
could use some work.
Edinburgh in particular.
Okay, all right. I'm gonna keep at it. I promise to be good by the end of the first season of SNL UK.
It greatly entertained me. So yeah, it was really enjoyable. And I think, was it Leicester you ended up having to ask for a hand?
I think so. Yeah, it was interesting spelling for a great pronunciation award. So, but yeah, like I honestly, for me, it's just exciting to have something new and fresh to talk about, and we're gonna have some fun with all of our coverage of that. So stay tuned for all the details there. Max, anything else that you wanted to say before we depart tonight?
Nothing else. But I did, as I noticed as you were starting, behind you on your head, is that like an actual dressing room placard?
Yeah, that is. It was created for me. It's not like it's. I didn't have a Jon Schneider dressing room at like right over there. Yeah, I didn't have a Jon Schneider dressing room at SNL, but it was created for me as a gift. So yeah, maybe one day. You never know. But thanks for the question, Max. And Frankie, so nice to meet you. So glad that you've been following the podcast and that you've joined us. Don't be a stranger. So we're thrilled that you joined us here tonight.
Thank you so much. It's lovely to meet you, sort of.
Yes, of course. Thanks. And thanks, Max. Appreciate you guys.
Yeah.
All right, Sammy, there you go. We are continuing our show here tonight. You having fun so far?
Oh, yeah. Having a ton of fun here. Excited to see what's next.
All right. Well, next up, we got our friend Shari is here. Shari, how are you?
Hello.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And joining us as well is Ian. Ian should be here joining us. Ian, what's up, man?
I can't hear anything. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
We can hear you.
Us?
I can't hear anything.
Okay. Maybe
I'll leave and come back.
Yeah, do that. All right. We'll talk to Shari in the meantime. So Shari, how are you?
Hello. I am doing well. And I very much enjoyed the UK preview. That was really cool. And I'm excited to see Frankie. And I'm already going to find her on Discord and get her onto Saturday Night Ladies, because I'm very excited to get an international woman. So
yeah, for sure. Are
very
you guys going to
cool.
cover SNL UK on Saturday Night Ladies?
Oh, absolutely. There's a lot of women on that show. I was very impressed with the female and the diversity of the cast. It made me very happy. They're kind of doing a better job than us.
It was very cool. Ian, can you hear us now?
I can, yes.
Perfect. Happy to welcome you to the show. Ian, how are you doing, buddy? Great to see you.
I'm all right. Just been liking what I've been seeing, trying to catch up on some other stuff. Sad about Captain O'Hara, but other than that, pretty good.
Yes, for sure. Definitely a rough month to lose Catherine. Of course, I definitely invite any of our listeners to go watch her episodes hosting Saturday Night Live. 2 really fun episodes of the show. Shari, I'll start with you. Is there anything from this past month of Saturday Night Live or anything coming up that you want to talk about here?
All right. So I'm hoping that one of you experts, because I'm not quite sure. Obviously, I'm particularly interested in women involved in the show. And this year we have 5 women, which we all know is very low. What was the last season that we had this few women or fewer? Was it the 90s? Was it early 2000s?
It really wasn't that long ago. I think it was approximately, I'm going to say season 41, maybe 40, 39, like something around then, when like before Sashir and Leslie joined. Is that possible? I don't have the numbers in front of me to check. Yeah, Sammy, you got this?
I feel like my guess would have been like season 32, 33. Wasn't it just Maya, Amy, and Kristen?
Well, yes, that's for sure. Yeah, I just think afterwards. Okay, so there was 6 women in season 41 with Vanessa, 80, Kate, Cecily, Sashir, and Leslie. So that, yeah, and then, yeah, I think around then Shari, but certainly it's noticeable. And you know, for me, the thing is that what I've been saying all season long, and you know, you tell me if you disagree with this, because obviously I'd like the, you know, women's take on this, but I don't mind having 5 women on the cast. I just think it's the disparity between the men and the women. So if there was, you know, like, you know, 5 out of 16 certainly feels better than 5 out of 17 that we had earlier in the season. So, you know, if there was a lower number, I think that it would be okay with it. I would have to think, Shari, that SNL would course correct for season 52 and that we will be getting at least 1 or 2 more women on the cast.
I certainly hope so. And I agree with you, John. If it was 10 on the cast and it was 5 and 5, that would be make much more sense. But now it just feels so uneven. But on the good side, they've been giving the women a lot more screen time because they're feeling guilty, I think. So I'm loving that.
Yes, for sure. And look, it's not right. And I certainly would prefer SNL to have equal numbers in this day and age. But SNL did operate with like, hey, we're only going to have 3 women for many eras of the show. So there is sort of like a familiar structure to the cast in the way that they do produce this. But yeah, of course, I would love to have more women on the show. And if not, then I'm glad that we're giving them more opportunities. Ian, what about you? Anything else you want to talk about here?
Just as far as the last 3 episodes?
Yeah, sure. Anything that any questions you have, or is there anything about anything coming up?
I was just thinking like about how all those cut for time episodes from the Tiana Taylor episode. Do you think that was were they considered cut for time, or like are they trying to do more, have more of an online presence as well? Or
it's a really good question. I did take a look at this and I saw that I think it's the last I guess they skipped not the Glenn Powell episode, but every other episode this season from Sabrina Carpenter on. So basically the last 9 of the last 10 episodes, they've released something cut from the episode. So I think they are making a concerted effort to post cut sketches. The Tiana Taylor week was weird, though, because they posted so much content from Dress. It almost felt like a mea culpa a little bit, Sammy. What was your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's certainly something where it's like, I feel like if you were to look at, this season as a whole, is the Tiana Taylor episode one of the weaker episodes? Yes. It's not like, it wasn't a train wreck of an episode. So I find a hard time thinking, somebody at NBC or the show is like, we got to, press the red button and release all the cut for time sketches. But yeah, it's very interesting. What I also think is interesting, and I feel like it's been a couple seasons since they've been doing this, is that, I feel like pre-COVID, at least, the cut for time sketches were labeled like cut for time sketch name. And now they're just, another sketch posted along the other, sketches on the YouTube channel. And I find that fascinating because, a casual fan who's not watching the show live doesn't know the difference. My sister, at our Super Bowl party yesterday was like, I really like Colin Jost in that Epstein sketch, from, last week or 2 weeks ago, which was cut for time. And I was like, yeah, that's, not even part of the show. So it's just very interesting sort of how, they're going in this digital age, trying to figure out ways to, get sketches out there, get more stuff out there, and how things are just sort of, to the casual audience, gonna all feel like it's part of the same show.
I'm more interested that she liked Colin Jost in that sketch. That was a fine cut for me. But there's another thought that I had recently, which is that I believe at the Harry Ransom Center, which is down in Austin, Texas, they have a lot of content that Lorne gifted to the center, including what I believe is a server with dress sketches that has now become publicly available for research. So I do wonder if there's less of a stigma from the show of like what they consider cut versus what actually made it on air. Of course, we come from the traditional sense of being like, this is canon. What made the show is the best stuff. And I think the show still operates in that sense. But it was fascinating to see what happened with Tiana's week, because for me, I was almost worried that the outcry of how good the cut sketches were was going to force them to not post cut sketches anymore, because they were worried that people would be like, well, you guys don't make good decisions. But I was really appreciative that we got to see so much. Shari, what's your take on all of these? Should SNL be posting all the cut sketches? Would you like to see them?
Well, as I often say, I am one of the ancient ruins in this community. I just celebrated my 56th birthday, which really isn't that old,
Happy
but in
birthday.
the scheme of things. Thank you. So, this is all very new to me. Like I didn't even know till I got more involved in this community that they put cut sketches online. Like I had no clue. So it definitely widens the range. I know they want to get the youth back. It used to be all about the youth, and now it's more my age because we're the ones who were kids when it started. So I get where they're coming from. I think anything that brings eyeballs to the show makes me happy because I want it to stay on as long as I'm on the planet and hopefully beyond that. So I'm all for whatever brings people to the show.
I'm with you. I think that, the show, at least in the Lorne era, we'll see what happens afterwards, has always been sort of gamified. Like there is this thing where you come in and it keeps getting filtered down from Monday to Saturday night to get the best stuff on air. I would never want the show to lose that because I think that that's part of what makes the show so special. However, I think that there's something to be said about in this age of we're always looking for new content to fill our minds, extending the SNL week. And I think for them, they feel that posting stuff on Saturday and Sunday from the episode is great, but then you can also post a cut sketch on Monday and then again on Tuesday. And then you have the next SNL promo on Wednesday for the following week, and then another SNL promo on Thursday. And then all of a sudden you're there for the next week. And, I see this with football a lot where they play on Sundays and now they added, Thursday games and then Saturday games and all of that. Like, I think we're just trying to stretch this out as much as we possibly can. So that has to be some sort of incentive there. Ian, what do you think?
I mean, well, I didn't really think much of what you said makes a ton of sense. I don't know. I gotta say, I did zone out. I had to write something down, so part of that.
You're good, buddy. No worries.
So, but when I started to catch back up, I was like, you know what? All the when you, like the sports analogy, I was like, Jen's always on those. It's always on to something.
Well, thank you. I do appreciate that. Shari, was there a particular moment from the last month of Saturday Night Live that you and the ladies of the Saturday Night Ladies really enjoyed?
We were just so thrilled to see so many almost all female sketches. There were a lot of them where the women were in the majority and there would just be like a brief pop in from a guy. So I think we talked a lot about that. Of course, we were all very high on the Skarsgård episode. We all really liked the Finn Wolfhard episode too. The only one what's funny is we always seem to agree. I say that we share one brain because we always seem to we've liked almost everything this season. And we all didn't care for the Tiana episode and it was the same sketches almost. I find it very strange how in sync we are. But yeah, we've just really been thrilled with things like Snack Homies, which I know is very divisive. But what a great showcase for the women. And we're all very excited with Jane being given a shot. And now we've got two How Great Is Jane's for all those not ready for primetime project folks out there. And I happen to have the t-shirt. So now I've got two Janes that I can advertise. So yeah, so we're all pretty thrilled at Saturday Night Ladies for all the female attention. And
yeah,
we're big Justice for Jane fans, so we're glad to see her getting so many good vehicles, especially that luge sketch.
I'm with you. I think that was probably the biggest story of the last month was just, the rise of Jane Wickline that, coming from, near SNL cut to, making her way back onto the show. And I think that she made a case for herself to really continue on and grow as a cast member. So really, really impressed with everything. Ian, is there anything else that struck you from this last month of Saturday Night Live?
I was impressed with Jane. All those great line deliveries. I mean, got great laughs out of me. Also, do you know, I'm assuming it was when Sarah was like, not a single woo from the audience, that she just said that, right? That was not part of the thing, or did she say that
address? I forgot to double check about that. I'll try and find out during the show and say I think it was ad-libbed, is my at least recollection or understanding of that moment. But
They
yeah,
got a
it
big
goes
laugh
to
out of me.
me too, and it goes to show you how good she is off the cuff. Like sometimes I feel like she's just so constrained by the show, and just having this moment to like be herself. She's great with an audience if you ever go see her. So it was really, really cool to get that moment. So as you said, Shari, a great month for the women of SNL. There was that one sketch with the, women walking with the weights on them, the cul-de-sac walk that got cut, that was posted online. That's one for the women I really wish did make it. But overall, I've been very impressed, and I think it's for sure one of the stories of the season. So Ian, thank you so much for joining us here tonight. Really great to catch up with you.
Thank you for having me, and it was fun talking.
Of
and
course,
I'm excited for the next time and the next that heated rivalry guy. I'm excited to see all the hockey, how kind of heated hockey we're going to see on that episode.
Yes, for sure. That's something we'll definitely talk about a little bit more here throughout the show. And Shari, always a pleasure to see you, and happy birthday.
Thank you. Great to see you and Sammy and Ian and everybody out in chat land. This is always a lot of fun. And
always
just
a pleasure.
please tune in to Saturday Night Ladies. I have to shamelessly plug anytime I can.
No problem. I support you. So absolutely tune in. And we got some more Saturday Night Ladies coming up later in the show. So thank you, Shari, and thank you, Ian. All right, Sammy. Are you going to be watching any Olympic hockey now that heated rivalry has become such a hot show?
Unsurprisingly, I've never gone too much into the Olympics. My fiance wants to try to lock in this year and watch some Olympics, but haven't done a ton of that yet. Are you a big Olympics guy?
I'm more of a summer Olympics guy than a winter Olympics guy.
Okay. Yeah. Even though, I think of Winter Olympics, I think of Canada,
It's very true. Yes. I was a big hockey fan in high school. I sort of lost it a little bit. But yeah, I don't know. I'll tune in every now and then. I was like very excited to wake up the other day and see what Lindsey Vonn was going to do. And it was a big bust. So
wild that she even tried.
Yes, that is
crazy.
Like
athletes are, they're
let's bring in a couple other patrons to join this conversation, because I think we'll have some fun talk here. So first, let's bring in Steve. Steve, what's up, man?
John, good to talk to you. Sammy, good to talk to you for the first time.
Hey,
happy to have you on. And joining us as well is Demi's back. Demi, how are you?
I'm well, John. Great. How are you?
It's been way too long, so happy to have you back on the show.
I'm psyched. Thanks.
Yes, for sure. Well, Demi, I'll start with you. What would you like to talk about here?
Well, I'm glad to hear the Olympics talk and the Jane talk. It's a pretty good convergence. I'm like missing the Olympics replay right now. I'm all about the Olympics, but I am more of a Summer Olympics person. But I can't sync up to anything. But Jane the Luge, that was pretty great. So I think Jane's having a pretty good redemption arc. And if it hasn't been talked about enough, Ashley Badia, obviously, and Mr. On Blast, that made me laugh against my will. I did not want to. I was like, that was a pretty dark day. That was the day Alex Preddy was killed. So I think that was like, it felt almost criminal to laugh at things. So when he came on with that bit that was apolitical, evergreen, and just the right amount of absurd, and it was executed so well. I mean, there are a few bright spots in the last few episodes that stick in my brain, but that one, I was taken aback by how funny that was. I did not want to laugh. I did not want to enjoy hilarity, but it was so funny. It tickled me against my will. I was not expecting it. It was, I hope we see it again, minimum 10 times. Like, it's great. So.
Yeah, I think that's the sign of a really great SNL cast member, is that on a pretty dark day, you could just turn on anything that they do and they make you laugh. And I think Jeremy has that quality. So that was one of my favorite parts of this past month. Steve, what about you? What are you thinking about when it comes to SNL this past month? Anything that you want to touch on?
Overall, the show's been pretty solid for the past 3 weeks. I really enjoyed it. I Demi bringing up the Mr. On Blast and bringing up, it made me think, like, the Tiana Taylor episode was not well received. Do you think maybe that had to do with the fact that of all of the darkness that was going on that day, that maybe affected people's perceptions of that episode? That's just my
It's a
thought.
great question. Yeah, Sammy, what do you think? Do you feel like if the Tiana episode aired on any other day, people would have enjoyed it more?
Steve, that's an interesting point, because during our last conversation when we were talking about, why did they post so many dress sketches, I did sort of have the thought, like, maybe, there's all this negative discourse, after that episode regarding how they handled that situation, that maybe they decided, let's release the archives and try to distract from that. But, I don't know if that's necessarily the case. But yeah, I mean, I definitely feel like anything, if you are, not in the mood to laugh, it might be harder for you to laugh if your mind's on other stuff. I think that's certainly something that can affect how you watch or anything. So, but at the same time, I feel like that doesn't affect everybody the same way. So I think if the general consensus was that people didn't love the episode, I think it might have just been the episode didn't have the juice.
Yeah, I think, Steve, that the previous era with Kate and Cecily in particular, they were really outspoken with how they felt about things that were happening outside of Saturday Night Live. And they brought that into the show a lot in a way that maybe we've never seen on the show before. And I thought that was pretty fascinating. And it's hard because future eras sort of look back to that one. They always look back to what came before. And there's sort of an expectation that people on the show may address things in the way that they did. You think about the Hallelujah moment, or you think about some of the, tragic things that have happened throughout that era with, Cecily, standing up front, opening the cold open, things like that. So not every cast or not every cast member wants to be on the show presenting that way. So it's interesting to think, like, what happened that day, how they felt about it, and how it affected their performance. And perhaps if that day did occur when other cast members who were more outspoken were on the show, that the show may have looked completely different. So it's just like, I love the question, because I just find all these things really fascinating. And I probably went to sleep that night after doing the Hot Take show, thinking about the million ways that episode could have gone and how it ended up going.
Yeah, very fair. I'll say from my perspective, I was not really in all that big of a mood to laugh that night. I mean, and I know obviously it affects people differently. I think it's just interesting, like, the expectation is that SNL needs to respond to this right away, and it's like it happened that morning, and that's not really something you can mine great comedy from. Like that kind of an incident's not something that's like prone to mining comedy. So I was just something I thought about, kind of off the cuff there when we brought up the Mr. On Blast, which was a high moment from that episode.
For sure. I think that there's obviously a very distinct range of people watching the episode who were absolutely hoping that they would address it, and then people who did not want to think about it at all. And you're never going to make everybody happy. I think that they sort of towed the line in a way that I didn't love, because they were like, well, let's talk about it, but not talk about it directly. And I think that's sort of the worst way to approach it, in my opinion. And I would venture to think if they could go back, they may have not put that, Keenan and Tiana sketch in the place that they did. And I don't know that they would change
10 to 1 practically.
Right, exactly. So it was like, there's a lot of like tough things that I think that maybe they would go back. But, in a way, look, we all hope that these days never happen. The fact that it did, the fact that an SNL episode aired, it will always be an SNL episode that aired during that time. And there is like a little bit of beauty to that, where you can go back, watch the episode in a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, study the episode and reflect on how them as a, sample of culture handled this really tragic moment. So I always find these things fascinating, whether I agree with them or not. Demi, before you mentioned Jane with the luge, and I feel like that's such a fun topic to talk about, because we haven't dived into it too much. We talked about it a little bit with Shari earlier, but I think, Jane had such a great month, especially last week. I think that there was a lot of talk about she's made it, she's arrived. What do you think she needs to do now for the rest of the season so she can maintain some sense of momentum?
I mean, whatever she did to make herself more comfortable with performing. She just needs to do more of that. There was like a comfort level and a level of self-awareness almost, in that people maybe think I'm just a dead weight in the luge, but I didn't ask to be here. I mean, kind of, but I just thought that was really meta. But she did have a sense of self-assuredness and like almost poking fun at herself. And the Tamara sketch, the Weekend Update correspondent bit, that was like in her wheelhouse more. Like it was TikTok, and people on Reddit were kind enough to show me the screenshots of this person who actually said those things exactly like that. Like, I want to mark the passage of time, but I don't know how to, one button for every day. Like, that's literally what the comments were, what she was saying. It was insane. I kind of love it when SNL references something that has a much deeper meaning. But I mean, Jane, whatever her strengths were, it was self-awareness and comfort level with performing. And so I don't know what's been inhibiting her, but she seemed to have made a breakthrough. So just more of that. I mean, she clearly has some support in the writing staff that they're putting her in these things. So whatever she's doing to ingratiate herself, whatever she's doing to adapt to a sketch show instead of TikTok influencer, I mean, just keep doing that. She seemed a lot more comfortable. So it was funnier, I thought.
I agree completely. Steve, I compared her to Sam Darnold on By the Numbers last week, and that guy went off to win the Super Bowl last night. I mean, do you feel like that sports comparison is apt? Because like this was a guy, he was on his fifth football team before he was really given a shot to, keep going and finding his way. And I feel like it's just, I've never seen an SNL cast member been given such a leash. And it's a really interesting experiment that we have with her, where maybe more cast members would thrive if they were given such a chance to improve.
Yes and no. I think if the comparison were truly the people out there, I think Jane would have to go to like her fourth, sketch comedy show and try to find
Sure.
successfulness there. But I think you had to provide her that sort of that leash, sort of that rope to try and try to get her to where she's at right now. Because of the three new cast members that came in season 50, I think she was the one that had the biggest learning curve of the three. Like Ashley's coming from Groundlings, and she has that sketch experience there, and it was very evident. Emil was coming from a stand-up experience, but there is a big difference between performing a TikTok video in front of your iPhone 14 and performing on Studio 8H. And I think Jane had to kind of master that a little bit in that first couple seasons, and she's starting to pick up on that. Also, the pre-tapes are helping her, and I think the writers had to kind of adjust to what her voice is, which is, sort of a little bit of an awkwardity with like a kind of a subtle dry humor. I think they figured out how to write for her, and I think it's clearly paying dividends. And I think she's well on her way. I think she will get to season 3, as long as she continues on the path that she's on right now.
Yeah, I think I'm most fascinated with her out of any cast member right now, just to see what she's going to be doing. And if she does continue on to season 3, it's just I'm curious, is this going to be like an up and down thing that we're going to follow week to week, or is she going to rise and her star is going to continue to grow? Sammy, if you were coaching Jane Wickline right now and you're in the box with her, and you're just talking to her and being like, okay, you did it, you had a great week, what would you tell her to do next?
Personally, I would look around the room. And I would say, who is the person who is dominating the season? It's my fellow season 50, group, person, Ashley Padilla. They came into the show together. Obviously, they've been in these big sort of group girls sketches together. What would a duo between Ashley and Jane look like? Because the one thing that we're sort of missing so far is she's killing it in these pre-tapes that she's sort of the focus on. She's obviously does her thing on Update, and has also found ways with Marcelo and other things on Update to sort of get her voice out there. But she hasn't really anchored a live sketch. She's definitely had these sort of scene stealing moments in a live sketch. So I think it would be pretty cool to see the two season 50 cast members who kind of came into the show together, building some sort of duo together in a live sketch specifically. I think that would be really fun to see.
It's a great point. I think that would be really cool. That's definitely something we have not seen left yet on the show. Steve, do you want to jump in on that?
I was going to say we saw a small taste of that in the I voted for I'm changing my mind about Trump sketch, because Jane was in that sketch, and it was like, and there was that little back and forth between her. It's like, what happened when you said you came out? It's like, you asked me if I liked hats. So there was they have a chemistry. So I think that's a very good point, Sammy.
It really is. Debbie, I know that you are always talking about the women of the show and rooting for them. So it's interesting that they are castmates with each other. We haven't seen them a lot together, especially this year. Could you imagine, a duo, kind of coming together between Jane and Ashley at some point?
Yes, I think it would be a mark of great personal growth, because I would be intimidated to be in a sketch with Ashley Padilla. Like, who wouldn't? Like, she's really good. She's really, really good. But she seems like she's really generous. So I can see that duo. Although I can see Jane more with Veronica. They seem to have a really likable, like sensibilities. But yeah, that's an interesting question. If Ashley was going to pair up with anyone besides Andrew, which was magic, I think we can all agree. The couple have just hooked up twice.
Yeah.
That's a great deuce. But I'd be interested to see who Ashley. I mean, I honestly, I don't know if I've said this, but I haven't said this on this before, but she kind of reminds me of Phil Hartman in that she's like so resolute and she has such a backbone. She can backbone a sketch, like she can anchor it, and she can also provide just one moment of emotion that changes the entire thing, but like, because she's so skilled. So I would love to see some kind of increased pairings with her. With her and Jane, though, I think that would be quite a feat, I think, to write for and to execute. I think because their sensibilities seem very different, their pedigrees are very different, their skill sets are very different. So that, I think, that would be a high watermark if that was able to get pulled off, honestly, by everyone involved.
I think it's a really great question. I think it's something that would be a development from Jane, because right now it took a while for her to figure out the show. They finally nailed what she could do really well, which is that she's pretty good on update. She's been pretty good opposite of Marcelo, which we've seen, who has a completely different personality than her. So they're sort of like opposites attract in a sense. And she's also really good at being the person in a sketch that calls out the thing that nobody else is calling out. So these are all roles that don't involve blending or having chemistry with another cast member that you have some similarities with. So that's what's interesting to me. The one thing we didn't bring up was her and Veronica having Cousin Planet together, which I think was a big hit. And that, I think, would be the next move that I would probably make with Jane, is I would probably tell her, hey, let's get another one of those right now. Like, while the stove is hot, produce another pre-tape with Veronica. I think we got something good here. So that'll be something to watch for during the Connor Story episode. Could you imagine a Connor Story, Jane Wickline, and Veronica Salakowska music video? That's something. So we'll see. Demi, so great to have you back on the show. Really appreciate you.
Yes, so glad to be here. Thank you.
Yeah,
Nice
welcome
seeing
back.
you, Sam.
It's Steve, always a pleasure to see you and your beautiful Cubs memorabilia behind you.
Of course. So pleasure as always. To answer Max's question, Fernando Mendoza, that would be the sports host I would have.
Okay, well, I think he has to play in the pros first, but great call. Love it, Steve. So thanks, buddy. All right, talk to you guys soon. Great questions here, Sammy, so far. Really, really great. Patrons are bringing it here tonight.
Always bringing that.
Yeah, and we have a couple of old friends joining us next. So first, let's bring in our man Casey Killingsworth is here. Casey, what's up?
Not much. Just doing some of my own podcasting, working on my new job, and just hanging out in the SNL community. And it's good to get to talk to you guys again and just assess the modern state of SNL and where it's at right now.
Absolutely, Casey. Happy to have you on the show. And joining us as well is the great Scott Sandler. Scott, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing pretty well. The guys at Riff Tracks announced they're doing a new set of MST3K episodes.
That's something I'm excited about too, and I liked your coverage of it.
Thank you.
Yes. Scott, I don't know if you have a TV on in the background, but just the noise is just coming through into the podcast. If you don't mind just muting that for us so we can get to hear you clearly. But yes, I know that the two of you have a lot in common, both bloggers, which is fantastic, and have some great thoughts on the show. So Casey, I'll start with you. Anything that you want to talk about here tonight with Sammy and I?
Well, just the state of the show in general. We're still witnessing some more instability, which is common for January. January through April is kind of a dead month for movies and stuff coming out that actors can promote on the show. But we are seeing some reconfiguration of the cast, and I think that's coming along nicely because they're figuring out not just who the new face of the show is going to be behind Keenan, Jost, and Che now that Bowen's left, and those three guys may have a foot out the door at any time. But we're also seeing them figure out how to use James Austin Johnson in non-political stuff. We're even seeing them figure out how to use Jane Wickline in a way that people can agree is that, yes, this is funny, and yes, this isn't why some people were put off by her or why people thought she was polarizing. And they're continuing to use Ashley because that's really working for them. And they figured out she can be, the new face of the show as far as the lead female cast goes. And we're also, they're also figuring out how to use Veronica too. But one thing I've noticed, this January run has, cemented in my mind that modern SNL does have the ability to dig itself out of a hole, because we've seen this twice this season where right before we get an important historical milestone in the show's history, they happen to give us an episode that's not that great, to be honest, but right up until that specific anniversary, they pull out all the stops, they dig himself out of a hole, and they manage to give us a really fun show. I mean, first we saw this with the season premiere with Bad Bunny. I hate to say this about a guy who put on a really great Super Bowl halftime show last night, but after Bad Bunny, which wasn't a great premiere, we got Amy Poehler's episode. We just got Tiana Taylor's episode, which was pretty panned for a number of reasons, but then Alexander Skarsgård gave us a great episode in time for the 1000th episode. And if you count, if you count Bowen Yang's last episode as that type of historical milestone, then you could say the same thing about Josh O'Connor's episode in December. So we've been getting mostly that pattern outside of a really strong run of shows in November, and Sabrina Carpenter's in October is a bit even. But I hope they really break away from the pattern as the show's sort of finding a new identity and just give us a consistently solid show as much as they can, whatever that looks like for them.
Look, I think the best SNL seasons go up and down. It's a weird coincidence that some of those milestones have that pattern that we've seen here this season. So I love that you brought it up, though. Scott, do you have any strong feelings about what Casey just said with some of the great episodes of the season, or is there anything else that's on your mind you want to discuss with us?
I'm not quite sure what makes. I mean, yes, Bowen was on a while, a considerable while, but I'm not sure if it's a milestone episode. Like,
I would say it's a tentpole episode, probably. It's like one that people will remember. So in the case of what Casey's saying, Scott, I think that, it's an episode that people are looking forward to. So there's something to be said about perhaps, not putting their best effort into a week that doesn't matter as much as the ones that are coming up. Or it could just be coincidence.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
And we, January was a month where, following up from the very cast-focused intervals of the previous Patron Feedback Show, yes, we just went through James in the previous segment, but then there's Cam, who just crashed out with a shutout.
That's true. Yeah. Is there something that you would like to see from
and
Cam,
that's
Scott?
coming from starting with his weekend update from the Finn Wolfhard episode. So it's very polar opposite from the start and end of the month are polar opposites.
That's very true. Sammy, what do you think? Anything that you would like to see from Cam moving forward? Because it was a rough way to head into the Olympic break.
I mean, obviously, we've seen what he can do on Update. You know, he has had some strong moments in pre-taped sketches. You know, he was good in the Martin Hurley, sketch from earlier in the season. I mean, he just has like such a. I feel like there's like some sort of untapped energy there that I think would really thrive in live sketch. Like from his stand-up that I've seen, you know, he can, you know, have such a sort of loud personality that I think for something that's a live show, I feel like that would be something that you'd want to utilize and try to get on as we head towards the end of his rookie season.
Yeah, Casey, I'm so curious how you feel about Cam, because, you know, we just talked about how it may have taken Jane 30 episodes to really find her footing at the show and really, you know, go from just being someone who would pop every now and then to a more consistent presence. Do you think the show would afford the same amount of time to Cam, or is, you know, that maybe what he needs? How are you feeling about Cam right now?
Yeah, it's hard to get a beat on Cam because, again, I mostly know him outside of SNL as a guy who came up from Kill Tony, which is like a complete opposite world from SNL in the state of modern comedy. It's almost like oil and water. And we've seen that Cam can tone that down to get on the air on SNL, but that doesn't necessarily mean like his voice or his style or sense of humor is coming through in that. And it's not like him and the show are actively fighting against each other, at least behind the scenes and not publicly. But I think I do mostly like what I've seen with Cam. I thought the Michael Irvin commentary was possibly the funniest thing he's done all season. And I see that he has great potential, maybe untapped potential, but he is someone who the show, I can see them figuring out how to utilize, even in a way that may alienate some of his former fans or people who knew him from Kill Tony. But, you know, he deserved this opportunity just to show what full range he has. And so does Sarah, because she's in a similar boat. But there are people who came to SNL from like strange comedy worlds that are just so outside, so far off what SNL does, that you wonder how could they possibly succeed on that show. But, you know, if they're willing to not so much make compromises, but meet each other halfway, I think we could see some really great material from Cam and from Sarah as well.
I agree. I think that, you know, what they end up deciding to do with Cam in the summer will be incredibly interesting, because the diversity in this cast is rough. And I would want them to choose the best people regardless of diversity. But at a certain point, you have to ask yourself, like, what are we doing here? There's like not like, you know, Keenan has a permanent residence in the show. They got rid of Devin. They brought on Cam. Like, are we just sticking with, okay, we can only have 2 black men on the cast. There are no black women right now. I know that they're going to try and replace it, try and have a black woman as a part of the cast this summer. But clearly there's like extra factors here when considering whether to keep Cam or not in this show. And you would think that for the next 8 episodes, they're going to try and give him the best shot possible to stay on this cast. So I think there's just like a lot to think about when it comes to Cam here, especially as we are clearly entering a new era, one that is perceived as pretty good. And the last thing we need is to not, let this era go stale because of a lack of diversity. I think that would be really shitty for this era. So, but yeah, I think it's all a really, really interesting question for sure. Casey, anything else on your mind?
No, but before me and Scott have to go, do you guys want to throw any fan submitted questions at us?
Sure, I'll give you guys one, and then we'll head over to our next group that's coming in. This one, we do have a mailbag that we should have gotten to earlier, but we'll continue to get to. So far in season 51, we've only got one lone alumni host in Amy. Will there be more, or do you think, and who do you think it should be? Bobby, Sherry, Anna? This one comes from our friend Ajax. Casey, any pick for an alumni? I feel like we always get at least like 2 per season. So final 7 episodes, we don't know who's hosting them yet. Anyone you would want to see there?
I mean, I agree that Bobby and Anna and even Sherry, even Bob Odenkirk would make great alumni hosts, but we're in kind of a weird era of media when it comes to why people are hosting SNL, because less people are hosting to promote big tentpole blockbuster movies in theaters and TV shows on linear network television. People are more hosting to promote streaming stuff and not always referencing it directly. So yeah, we get some movie stars, and whenever an alumni friend of the show hosts, it's not always clear what they're promoting, but it's good to see them again, so we'll take it. I mean, Amy was hosting to promote a podcast that was, one notable thing about that, it's the only podcast to win a Golden Globe in this new special Golden Globes category for best podcast. So I'd like to see more alumni hosts. I don't know who or when, because who knows which alumni will have something out that's a big enough deal to promote.
Yeah.
But they obviously would fit the show like a glove, and it'd get some ratings just to see an old cast member they used to like when they were on the show again. So why not book any alumni they can get?
Yeah. Scott, you have a take on this?
I would say it's also born in the problems Hollywood is having with theatrical comedies, that they're just not being made anymore. And who would be cast in those comedies but SNL alums and even current SNL people? They're just not being made the same way. Sure, they are being cast in movies, but it's not as abundant as it was back in the day.
Yeah, that's totally fair. I think Sammy and I were talking offline a little bit about the new show that Tina was producing with Tracy Morgan, Bobby, and Daniel Radcliffe. And Sammy, I would think Tracy Morgan would be a great pick to come back and host for his 3rd time. That would make sense to me.
Yeah, no, I think that would be amazing to see Tracy back. And again, this show is lacking diversity at the moment. So, that also goes to show with hosts as well. So I think, it would be great to have Tracy in the building. Maybe, I would love to see that happen. But, as a Bobby fan, if I'm picking somebody to host from that show, I might have to pick Bobby.
For sure. That makes sense. Well, Scott, it was great to get to hear from you. Do you want to tell the listeners where they could check out your Substack? Oh, we lost Scott, but Google him. Great Substack. Casey.
I'd encourage people to read Scott's Substack. I might start posting it on my socials, but yeah, in case you're wondering what I'm doing, me and Deej are still doing We Heart Hater. We just recorded an episode reviewing the 2nd episode of documentary now called Drones, The Hunt for El Chingon, their big Vice parody. And it's the reason I'm wearing this hat and sunglasses. I decided I wanted to rock one of Bill's hipster doofus looks from that episode as sort of stealth promotion. And then we'll be reviewing the John Bon Jovi and Foo Fighters episode from season 37. I'll post a review of that from my blog. And another thing me and Deej are doing is we're both going to be on Ajax's Cover Wars podcast. I'll be recording mine this Sunday. We'll be talking about the song Happy Together by the Turtles. And when that comes out, we'll pay attention to at least my socials and you'll be able to hear it.
Sounds great, Casey. We did get Scott back right now. Scott, do you want to give it a shot? Tell us where people can check out your Substack.
Yeah, my Substack is sandwichhandlings.substack.com. I'm posting one to three times per day. Wow. What I was going to bring up was, did you get your sketch fill with the Muppet Show last week?
I not personally, but I know that a lot of people did, and I was very happy for them, and I saw all the posts. So thrilled that it's back. I think Sabrina Carpenter was on it, Maya Rudolph. So yeah, very excited for that.
Yeah, the other now formerly UK-based sketch comedy show that pretty certainly happened in some manner because of SNL.
Yes. 100%. And a great call. Thank you for bringing it up. Well, Scott and Casey, thank you for joining us here. I want to get to our next set of patrons who are waiting very patiently in the back room, but really excited to speak to both of you. And Casey, love the look. So happy to have you. And yeah,
might wear this on Cover Wars too. Who knows? And yeah, I definitely won't be a stranger. I'll see you guys.
Talk to you guys soon. Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
Thanks so much.
All right, let's bring up our next set of patrons joining us here on the show. First up, we got our man Victor is here. Victor, what's up, buddy?
Hey, can you hear me first off?
Yes, you sound great.
Okay.
Happy to have you
here. Okay, because I said at the let me start that again. At first, I thought Casey was trying to just be cool. I was say, hey, buddy, who you try to think you're fooling, baby? But after that, I decided, hey, he's doing a bit, so I'll just relax. But great to be here, just chilling before graduation of high school and
wow,
doing my own doing my own podcast and just ready to start rumbling.
All right, well, excited to get your takes coming up. Let me just bring in as well Marcus, who is joining us on this section of the show. Marcus, how are you?
Oh boy, my sixth time in a row being here, and this is what happened to follow that. Anyway, no, it's great to be here on the special, like covering the last 3 episodes. I think originally I actually wasn't supposed to be on here. But because this is the 1,000th one, I decided, why not? Because I have been on it. Like, let's see, this is actually because it's been 6 in a row that I've been on here thus far.
Okay. And, well, I'm happy to have you. Great to keep up the streak, Marcus. Victor, I'll start with you. Do you have any questions for Sammy or I? Is there anything you want to talk about?
Well, before I start, I just want to say I'm glad to be here for my 5th time, and I'm glad you had the most powerful duo here of me and Marcus on this time slot here. But I did have a question. You kind of got into it. You gotta, you kind of already answered like with Cam. I was just kind of like wondering. This is kind of a spicy question, but I'm wanting to take the shot of if Cam does have a great SNL tenure, would you like to see other Kill Tony people, or maybe people from different backgrounds, like kind of like how Jeremy came from Dropout, maybe someone from like Smosh comes out, or maybe someone from like Wild 'N Out? And I know like a lot of people, a lot of the newer cast members of Wild 'N Out are actually friends with a lot of SNL cast members, so maybe they could join on the show. So like Kill Tony, like would you like a cast member from there maybe joining sometime in the future? If you're
familiar with the program. I have no problem with it. I'm not precious about where the cast members come from in particular. I just think that at a certain point, we have to all be honest with ourselves and just say that stand-ups have a lot harder time adjusting to Saturday Night Live than sketch performers. So if you're going to bring a stand-up on, and traditionally I would think that people coming from Kill Tony would be stand-ups, then we have to give them the room to grow on the show. So I think that, when they hire cast members, they hope that all of them succeed, but they have this thing where they're like, we're going to change things up if it's not working after a year. I think when it comes to a stand-up, you have to give them more leash. That's all it is. So I have no problem with them going to that well. I think besides the, diversity in ethnicity or race or background, there's also diversity in comedic taste in where you come from in the United States as well. And I think that like them breaching into the, Texas pool of comedians that are there is always really great compared to, having someone from the Groundlings in LA or people in the Midwest. I was just watching CNN just did like a great piece on Boom Chicago, where Seth Meyers went out to Amsterdam with a bunch of his buddies and was part of a theater troupe out there, and they talked about how that comedy had an influence on him getting cast on the show. I think it's fantastic when you have people from all over. Sammy, do you have a take on perhaps any more people coming in from Kill Tony?
Yeah, I don't watch Kill Tony necessarily, but I think I'm right with you as far as long as you obviously have a background in comedy, and everyone has to go through the same audition process. Everybody has to bring some characters in, and if you're a stand-up, I'm sure you're gonna bring stuff from your set and try to turn that into a character, or do impressions. So I trust the show to scour the country and scour all of the great places that comedy is happening, and figure out what works best for the show and what the cast is missing and what the cast needs to sort of become more well-rounded. So I wouldn't say we should be sort of gatekeeping where that's coming from necessarily.
Yeah. And, it's easy to boil things down to like, this person comes from this comedic background, so that's the only thing that we know about them. And there's probably a lot to Cam before he was even on Kill Tony, and the things that he did to get to where he was on that show that factor into him being on Saturday Night Live. Marcus, do you have a take on all this?
I as I said before, I'm not really also never really watched Kill Tony that much essentially, but I absolutely agree. As long as you like a comedy background essentially, because you're gonna be going through the same like audition process, as you said, John. So the whole comedy thing is expanding on that point essentially. So you don't have to be limited to like at least one comedy group. So you can have a whole variety of groups essentially. So anyway, I'm all in for it.
Okay. Well, Marcus, is there anything that you want to talk about with Sammy or I, or any questions you have for us?
Let's see here. Let's see. I will say, to piggyback off on the Jane thing, which we have hinted at before, essentially, I also was actually like surprised with Jane in the more recent episode, which is the 1000th one, and people have been saying that it's the Jane's best episode, and I think they probably made it quite to be. I mean, we still have about like 7 episodes to go, if I believe, before we can people say that. But so far, this is actually one of her best thus far, and I was really impressed with thus far. And I was almost like, like most people, feels like, well, like she's coming back for another season. Shocker. But overall, she slowly started to go through that. Actually, starting to. I am going to be supporting her like throughout the way, despite all the hate that she still gets.
Yeah, I will as well. And I think that's a great jumping up point to a couple of questions we got from our mailbag. So if you don't mind, Marcus and Victor, I'll ask you guys, some related questions about this topic. So we got a couple that came in from Instagram. First one comes from Town J93, who says, how many feature players will likely stay on next season? And then D Griffin 930 said, of the rookies, who do you think will have the brightest prospects for season 52? So we have 7 feature players right now. Ashley, Jeremy, Cam, Jane, Tommy, Veronica, Ben. And how many of them do we think are going to be brought back for the next season? And out of all the rookies, who are you feeling the strongest about to have a great year too? So Victor, any take here?
I actually think the show has so much confidence in all of the feature players that this could finally be the year that all of them, all the newbies, like come back for a second year, because we've been seeing them both on screen and off the screen, with the promos and like sketches. And Jory just did a freaking ad for the Super Bowl, which I thought was awesome. And
yeah,
so
very cool,
I feel
with Rena Sabalenka.
Yeah,
very
and I feel they have like a lot of faith in all of them, which I expected. Again, given like with the exception of Tommy, all of them being like real like big names in one way or another, it makes sense to use them. And even with Tommy, I feel he's having a shockingly quiet good season, especially now with him and Veronica doing the routine before the show. I feel like they have a lot of faith in. So do I, and I'm really excited to see, and I hope I'm right with all of them coming back for season 52, because I'm just not a big fan of so many people being one and done or two and done or three and done, and we gotta stop that. Like, but yeah, yeah, that's how I'm feeling right now.
Yeah,
the newbies and future players.
Yeah, Marcus, go ahead.
Yeah, I also pretty much agree. Essentially, I feel like I've been impressed with all of the feature players thus far. Essentially, I mean, of course, we talked about Ashley like nauseum, obviously, and then Jane happens to have a good solid second season overall, especially with the episode thing. Between the 5 rookies at this point, essentially, I mean, Ben more or less has been like some good roles here and there. Veronica I've been impressed with, even though we haven't really seen a whole lot from her thus far. Tommy had a good, slow, but interesting start, essentially. I hope we can see much from him. And then there's Jeremy. I mean, Mr. On Blast, for God's sake. Being on blast. So, honestly, I hope all of them pretty much come back at some point. So, I wouldn't even mind, essentially. And because if any of them pretty much would be like one or done or two of those, essentially, who knows what may happen afterwards. So, I hope all of them can come back for at least another season or so.
For sure.
And real quick, I just want to say that I feel also I think the show probably wants to have all of the 5 rookies return, unless maybe they just realize, or maybe it's just not for me. Because as much as I love Cam, I feel like maybe he might have realized that, but hopefully I'm wrong. But again, hopefully they can all stay on, and yeah.
I mean, you would think, but then most people thought that Emil was going to come back after last season, so we don't know.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. Sammy, what do you think? Any of these prospects that we have from our first year as cast members that you feel extremely high on for next year, and overall, what are you feeling about the hit rate of these 7?
Yeah, as somebody who's been an SNL fan for pretty much 20 years at this point, I've learned to not get too attached. I feel like there's always people who have a great season. I mean, Chloe Trost, for example, no one thought that she wasn't going to make it, especially as sort of the one person from her class that year, that she wouldn't make it to another season. So at this point, I feel like the people I thought going into the season, who I felt most confident about, are still the people I feel most confident coming out of the season. And those are Ben, Veronica, and Jeremy. For me, I mean, Tommy definitely had a stronger start, at the first half of the season. But obviously a ton of comparisons to Longfellow, just in the role that he can place on the show with getting a lot of stuff on update. And we kind of saw how that turned out for Longfellow. And obviously we've talked about Cam as well. So at this point, those are the 3 I would, if I had to put money on, but I'm obviously rooting for everybody to make it, another season, because I do really feel like it takes time to sort of get into the SNL process and figure out how to work that show. And I think one season really is not necessarily enough to sort of deem who's worthy and who is not worthy of having a successful SNL career.
Vslowski for life.
We're certainly rooting for all of them, no doubt. I think Ben is the biggest question mark for me right now, which is that he's done some pretty good stuff on this season. It feels like they are sort of setting him up to be the next Mikey, like the one who's on the cast, who could be a straight man in a sketch every now and then, have a really defining role in his voice. But he's also that like pseudo writer cast member. And I just wonder if there is, a decision for Mikey at some point to either move on as a cast member or from the show entirely, if Ben fits really well into that role. Because I think that a lot of the roles that go to Mikey would go to Ben this year. So that's, a defining thing for him when it comes into his second season that we would talk about, before season 52. So a lot of interesting thoughts here. Victor, great hearing from you. Happy 5-timers club with us. So thanks for joining us here tonight.
Yeah, thank you for having me. And if you heard anyone in the background, don't worry. We're fine.
You're good. We didn't hear anything.
Okay, but yeah, great to be on with you, and great to, I guess, see Sammy second time after my first time. Let's be real, it's my first time speaking with Sammy. So great.
For sure.
Great to be here. Make sure to check out the Not Ready for Popcorn Players podcast with me and Johnny Watson, aka Over Simplify Productions. Our 3rd episode of Eddie Murphy's Boomerang was released, and expect episode soon on Will Ferrell's Stranger Than Fiction and Amy Poehler and Tina Fey's Sisters. So check it out, and yeah.
Very, very cool, Victor. Definitely, everybody go check that out. Marcus, appreciate you joining us as well. Thanks. Anything you want to plug?
Thank you for. Honestly, actually, like the blog essentially just like happy to be on there. Happy to be
Cool.
Sammy for the second time because I actually first appeared on the podcast for the feedback show, and it was the season 50, the final feedback show of season 50.
My first one too.
Sammy was the first one I happened to meet with. So this is my second time actually getting a chance to talk to Sammy for the second time, and grateful to actually be a part of it. So
grateful to have you guys.
Hope I can come back again to continue the streak or not. So hope I can come back again and see what happens.
Awesome. Thank you,
See
Marcus,
everyone.
and thank you, Victor. We'll talk soon.
Great talking to you guys.
All right, Sammy, we're about halfway through the show here. How you feeling?
I'm feeling great. You know, we got some good questions, some good patrons. I'm excited to keep it going.
Yeah, let's keep it going right now. Let's bring in our next couple of guests. And joining us once again is the incredible Deej. Deej, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing just fine. And I want to say, you guys, the 10-year season 31 Patron episodes, I have been enjoying them so much. You guys are doing great. I love them.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's really kind, Deej. Thank you. I want to bring in our other patron joining us right now, and that is Drake is here. Drake, how are you?
I'm doing good. Do I sound all right?
Yes, you sound all right. Drake, is this your first time on the show here tonight?
Yes.
Welcome. So happy to have you. Thanks for calling in.
No
I think this is my first time with Sammy.
Okay, well, very good. Glad
Perhaps,
you
yeah.
got to meet with each other. Deej, if you don't mind, because it's Drake's first time on the show, I want to hear about your SNL background and how you found the podcast.
Yeah, so like growing up, me and my mom, she was like a big SNL fan. So I was like a casual viewer. It was like something we did to bond. And then when I got to like high school, I just like started like watching more of the YouTube videos. And then I think it was the year like Michael Longfellow, Devin Walker, all of them got hired because I knew them for stand-up. And I was like, oh, I remember Saturday Night Live. Let me try this again. And I wanted to be a stand-up, but then I was watching this and I was like, I think I like the sketch comedy stuff more. And I was like, this is what I think I would love. So I think like during 50, I found your podcast and I started like analyzing the show more.
Very cool. Well, very happy to have you on the show here tonight. Do you want to give us your general thoughts and how you're feeling about the season, and if there's anything you want to talk about with Sammy, Deej, and I?
Yeah, I would just say my general thoughts is I just had fun with the season. Like I'm not like as much of a super fan as y'all have. Don't remember all the older seasons. I've only watched from like I think 30 and up. I'm making my way through the older ones, but I think I just had fun with it. There's been a couple standout moments to me. I like the cast so far, and I like all the rookies as well.
Very cool. Yeah, no, that's for sure. And I'm glad you're watching the old seasons. That's like so fun. I wish I could go through that process of just going through it all for the first time. So very, very jealous of you to have that experience right now, and happy for you to catch up. Deej, thank you for the kind compliment about the season 31 podcast. Sammy and I, it's really like the one that we love doing the most. So I'm glad that you appreciate it.
It shows. It definitely shows. And besides, you're talking about Bill Hader a lot so far. So
we're having a lot of fun. So that's available on Patreon or for YouTube members now. In case you missed that, we have 12 episodes up from season 31. Deej, is there anything from this season that you want us to talk about here?
Well, since we haven't gotten to the mailbag a lot, I really want to get into that. But just
Sure.
general thoughts of the last sequence. Yeah, what's her name? The middle episode.
Tiana
before
Taylor.
Skarsgård. Yeah, sorry. The Tiana Taylor episode is not the best of the season. I kind of put that one on par with Gene Smart's season opener of last year, but the bookends on either side, those ones really good, especially Skarsgård, because and so far they've had 2 Skarsgård, well, it's actually 3 Skarsgård because of Stellan. Now, if we can just get the Skarsgård from It on, that would be awesome, because it would be a good promotion with Welcome to Derry.
Yes, that would have been a good opportunity for the last episode, but you are right. We should probably get to some of these questions that our listeners sent in. So I'll ask everyone here on the panel some really good ones. This one comes from our friend Eric, who said, there's been a lot of hype on the podcast about Ash Mukes, so the pairing of Ashley and Andrew Dismukes, but I love Ashley's dynamic with James in several cold opens and even the boy band sketch. I think it has a better chance of reaching a Phil Hartman, Jan Hooks type level. Therefore, is Jajli the power duo we should be more demanding of? Or Eric says, or do we prefer Jashley or James Ashley Johnson, Jajap, Ashley Johnson Padilla? A lot of suggestions there from our friend Eric. But how do we feel about the pairing of James and Ashley versus, what we were talking about a lot at the beginning of the season, Sammy, which was Andrew and Ashley?
It's like, I mean, can't they just be a throuple? I don't know. These are some of the best cast members on the show. So any pairing, I mean, we love Jajmukes as well. So I think it's an interesting question. I think just because of the comp that a lot of people, see a lot of Jan Hooks with Ashley and a lot of Phil Hartman with Jaj, that makes a lot of sense. But yeah, I don't really want to choose. That's a bad answer, but I feel like we have these such a sort of a great dynamics going amongst these cast members that I would love to not necessarily pick and stay in one lane. I'd like to see a lot of variety there. It's a variety show after all.
Drake, what do you think about the pairing of Ashley and James Austin Johnson?
Yeah, I think I'm not like the biggest fan of cold opens because I feel like it's always Trump, but sometimes they do make me laugh, especially with Ashley. But I think their highlight for me was at the Uber's rap sketch where he's like just poking her for no reason. He's like just yelling at her. That's been like one of my favorite moments of the season. And I do want to see that dynamic explored more outside of just the cold open. The boy band sketch on the Finn episode was one of the best sketches of that night to me.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think it's interesting because it's a great conversation starter that I don't even think had the chance to really break off until the last few episodes where James has sort of come into his own even more. Like he's been so unleashed since Bowen left that I feel like the conversation of him being a Phil Hartman type is something that we've been dreaming of for years, but have only really seen in the last month. So that's why we were having all those Andrew and Ashley conversations at the beginning, because it felt like this is a natural pairing and James is sort of locked into that Trump role. But I feel like they've really done a lot more with him this season, Deej. So the possibility is open to get this pairing together. What do you think?
Well, see, I think Ashley just has great chemistry with everybody. She's just that kind of performer where she can just instantly do a great connection. I mean, we'd have the great chemistry between her just Mukes with the couple that just hooked up. That's one of my favorite things that has come out of that. But yes, I'd like to see more Jaj outside of the Trump oeuvre because he is such a talented performer and I know he can do more. And he has shown like the boy band thing and the part in the Bobs versus Bangs, which is the cock thing. I mean, and he can, my camera flipped a bit. And he can sing. My God, the man can actually sing, as we saw with the duet with Ariana as Andrew Bocelli. So I think the exit of Bowen has really opened things up for Andrew, and I can definitely see him being a Phil Hartman. But lately with Ashley, I'm thinking. Now we know we've all recently lost Catherine O'Hara, and I think basically all her comedy spirit had just been channeled into Ashley the last little while. So so she could do great with anybody.
Oh, certainly. Yeah. It's always fun to get these pairings together on the show.
Yeah.
And, we haven't really had a classic like male female pairing in the last few years. So I think it's cool whenever we get something like this, and the possibility is certainly there. Let's take this next question from @IWannaRock_910. I think this is a fun question. What month of SNL do you think has been the best so far? So, we had in October, Bad Bunny, Amy Poehler, and Sabrina. November was Miles Teller, Nikki Glaser, and Glenn Powell. December, Melissa McCarthy, Josh O'Connor, and Ariana. And then January, Finn Wolfhard, Tiana Taylor, and Alexander Skarsgård. So Drake, out of those 4 months, which one do you think has had the best month?
It's between November and December to me. Like those, I feel like all 6 of those episodes are really strong episodes. I was a big Bowen guy, so I kind of just want to go December because Bowen was maybe my favorite cast member on the show, and him getting the send-off that I felt like he deserved, I think it makes that whole month more special to me.
Okay. Deej, what do you think? Did you have a month that stood out to you as like the one from this season so far?
I would definitely say the previous sequence just before the Christmas break, ending with Ariana. They've all been pretty. I think both the December, November have both been pretty strong. With December just being a little bit stronger, because there was some. I think there was one episode in the September which wasn't quite as good. I can't remember which one, but yeah, so far my favorite has been December. Not just for the whole Bowen thing, but they had really good hosts, really good sketches, really good writing, and there's been only 2 episodes for the entire season that have been sort of either so-so or not so good. But I will definitely say I loved Finn Wolfhard because he's from my part of town, Vancouver, which is also where Stranger Things was filmed. So I would literally love to see him back as a host.
Yeah, I think that would be very exciting. I think it would be cool to get him at a later part of his life when there's some, when he's in a different stage. That's my favorite thing is like when you get cast members as they're like one time they're in their 20s, then they're in their 30s. Like that's the best. Or sorry, excuse me, hosts. So I think that would be awesome to get Finn at some point down the road. Sammy, what do you think? Which month of SNL stood out the most to you in season 51?
Yeah, I think the November to December run was so strong, but I think I lean towards November for me. I wasn't as high on the Josh O'Connor episode as a lot of other people. And I thought the Glenn Powell episode was maybe my favorite episode of the season besides the Sabrina Carpenter one. And I feel like the Bad Bunny episode really brings down that first run of show. So I think I'll go with November here.
I think I'm with you. I would say traditionally November feels like my least favorite month for Saturday Night Live. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's like the really dark days of fall where it's like not the holiday season yet and it's not the excitement of the kickoff of the show. But there's something about those 2 episodes where I think I enjoyed the Miles Teller episode probably more than most people. And I thought that Nikki Glaser and Glenn Powell obviously was, a huge fan favorite. So really, really solid month for Saturday Night Live. But yeah, I mean, for the most part, it's been a great season. So hopefully we'll have more great months to come. Drake, anything else you wanted to ask us while you're here?
Yeah, while we're on the topics of hosts, is there like qualities or things you look at of hosts to say this person should come back or like we expect them to be back more than them just being in movies and having to promote stuff?
Sammy, it's a good question. What do you think?
I guess just to clarify, the question is what are the qualities I'm looking for in a potential host, essentially?
Yeah, like if you see like a first time host, you like after that episode, you're like this could be a 5-timer if like the career works out.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely how game did they seem to be? I also, as somebody who is just very into pop culture, people who can sort of make fun of themselves and sort of find ways to sort of address, their, whether it's, the work they've done or, if they're big in, the sort of paparazzi scene, like address their personal life in certain ways, just being able to play and, not being afraid to sort of let the cast outshine them. But also I'm also looking for maybe one sketch from a first time host, assuming they don't have a comedy background, where they're sort of taking the lead and doing something that's a little different than what we'd expect from them.
I agree completely. I think that, my favorite thing is when a host who is really good comes back and hangs around a lot and they like seem like they're a friend of the show. And I've heard Seth Meyers refer to this as like a cast building their own cast. And you had that when you had like Justin Timberlake hanging out with them a lot. And I think you have that now with Sabrina Carpenter being there. And she recently hosted. John Hamm obviously would pop in for a lot. Like I think some of the hosts that like treat SNL like, this is their family and they want to come back in. Like those are the people who I love seeing come back every now and then, but certainly people who are game for the show are the best ones that we hope to see again and again. Deej, anything else you want to say about this season while you're here?
In regards to the thing about host though, I'm trying to figure out when exactly was it a regular thing that a host would be on just to promote something. So I see there was at least definitely in the 70s, maybe a bit in the 80s, where they would have a host on just because they're just because they want to have the host. But as far as this season, I mean, this season so far has definitely been better than season 50. I can definitely say. I'm loving how much Jane is getting these days. We at Saturday Night Ladies are very much Jane supporters. We love her. And this last episode was one of her best, and she's getting more screen time. So she's really coming into her own, which I think also kind of with Bowen being such a presence, I think she's finding her people, like she's done for Veronica and whoever else she's developing things with. But I have a lot more hope for Jane than I did at the end of season 50.
Me too, certainly. And I think that SNL always likes to have a balance between hosts that have something serious to promote and then people who just want to be there as part of the show. And, that's how you create a great, week to week of an SNL season. So it's a great question and really fun to talk to both of you. Drake, thanks for joining us for your first podcast and thanks for supporting the SNN.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was fun to talk about it.
Of course, feel free to come back at any point, and we're grateful to have you as a part of our community. Deej, always a pleasure as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, it's good to bring the energy from Wacky Notion Productions as much as I can. Now, Casey already told you most of her stuff, but as far as Saturday Night Ladies is concerned, I'm just going to start editing on the episode for this week, which is the musical guest female of the decade for 2010s and 2020. And we have another one coming out the following week for 70s and 80s, which has been a really fun series. This week we have Veronica on, or Jennifer on, and then we have Veronica the next week. So it's been a really, really fun discussion about the female music artists that have come to SNL through the decades, especially the 70s and 80s. I think is our best episode.
Incredible. That's awesome. Well, great job on that, Deej, and so nice to meet you, Drake. I appreciate you both joining us here tonight.
Yep.
All right, Sammy, let's keep this show rolling. Some great questions, some great topics. And joining us right now is our friend Ajax. Ajax, how are you?
Hey, how's it going?
Great. Happy to have you on the show. And joining us as well for this portion of the podcast is our friend Christian. Christian, how are you?
Happy to be back. Sammy, nice to meet you. I also enjoy the Mighty Supreme shirt as well.
Thank you. I was waiting to see if somebody in the comments or on here is going to address it. So thank you for doing so.
Yeah, it only took an hour and 40 minutes, Sammy, but we did it. So,
the microphone's blocking it. Otherwise, you'd be able to see.
Yeah, Timmy's in the wrong spot. But great to have you both on with us. Ajax, how are you feeling about this past month of SNL? And is there anything that you would like to talk to Sammy or I about?
I like these last three shows. Everybody was so down on the Tiana Taylor episode. I actually really liked it. Of course, I would like it more if it wasn't. It did feel like a little bit like we were picking out the time slots out of a hat and we were on shuffle mode. Of course, I would have liked to have seen the cut sketches too. I don't know why they made those decisions, but altogether, I think if you got the hodgepodge together, it was an okay episode. I didn't think it was terrible. But the other two are great. So yeah, I'm feeling it. I like it. I like how this season's turning out compared to last season.
Yeah, fantastic. I'm excited actually when people come on and they have a differing opinion on an episode. So if you like Tiana's episode, then so be it.
I like the Josh O'Connor episode too.
I like that one also. I feel like that one
I'm all over the map.
Yeah, that's okay. That's pretty good. Christian, what about you? How are you feeling about SNL recently?
Yeah, no, been enjoying the season. I think the Tiana episode is kind of just a testament to just like I think the ceiling's been raised a little bit this season, just with people expecting more from the episodes, just with how good they've been on recently. The Skarsgård episode was probably my favorite of the whole season, up there with like Sabrina and Glenn Powell. And then even though the online discourse was kind of crazy, the Finn Wolfhard episode was very fun as well. So yeah, I enjoyed all three. I think the season's been really just kind of trucking along for sure.
That makes sense. Christian, do you have any questions or any topics that you want to address with Sammy and I?
Yeah, with Connor's story as the next host, it kind of reminded me of the Reggae John Page episode, just in terms of this massive show that kind of came out of absolutely nowhere, getting this one guy who's like the arguably one of the biggest stars of the moment right now. And I just wanted to see if you guys had any similar ones in mind in SNL's past where some show got massively crazy popular and then out of nowhere someone ended up hosting for the first time like right after the show aired.
It's pretty rare with an actor. Like there's a couple of notable examples of certainly somebody who came out of obscurity, which was Miskell Spillman, which was a fan voted episode back from the 70s. There's also like Olympians who, maybe got pretty famous. Like you think of Nancy Kerrigan's episode after the Tanya Harding situation that ends up having I think the most ratings to date in SNL history from that point. But it is, as far as like actors are concerned, Sammy, it's pretty rare to get somebody who was waiting tables a few months ago and then now they're hosting Saturday Night Live.
Yeah, it's wild. It's such a cool story that's something that can still happen.
No pun intended.
Yes, yeah, cool story, bro. Yeah, I know it's very cool that is something that can happen, especially as we've sort of talked about how a lot of SNL is so much another promotional vehicle, to where you're getting sort of established stars promoting, their new projects or people who are up and comers. But this is somebody who's sort of like an overnight success. So I think that's very cool to see.
Yeah, Ajax, I know you've been a longtime fan of Saturday Night Live. Can you ever remember a story like this?
Not really. I mean, a lot of just the sports figures come to mind. You mentioned the Olympians. So yeah, I mean, this is rare, but I think it's smart. They needed to do this. They need to get on the bandwagon, and I think he'll do fine. I mean, I just think that in this day and age, the way things are going, you have to do this. You have to bring who's hot into the show and stick him in there, see what happens. I mean, he's game for it. I think it's going to be interesting, and we'll probably get a lot of eyes on that episode. So I'm excited for it. And will we get Bowen? I think Bowen might make an appearance on the show. What do you think?
So that's interesting. I would think he would maybe want to, but he also talked a lot about how he had like a crazy schedule lined up for the start of the year. So I wouldn't be stunned if he didn't. I think he was in Japan. And then I think on his recent episode of Las Culturistas, he mentioned something to the effect of how it was weird watching SNL without him, but he's like obviously very happy. They had Sarah on to talk about, him not being at the table and all of that. So yeah, I mean, it would be cool to see Bowen again, but it's been, just a few episodes. So maybe not. I don't know. I'm not really sure what
if there was one though, this would be the one, right?
Well, speaking of bringing something back, we got this great question from Mark Figueroa, who sent in and said, do you think they'll bring back heated wizardry in Connor's episode? If so, would Finn return? So obviously they hit the heated rivalry parody in the Finn Wolfhard episode, which made sense because it was closer to when everybody was talking about the show. But now you got the guy here from heated rivalry. Do you do something again with it? Ajax, what do you think?
I think you definitely touch on heated rivalry. I don't know that they'd go back to the well and do another parody. I think they'll go hockey this time. I think they'll go direct, which is what I've been wanting for like the last couple of years. I mean, all these seasons where there's like last year, they missed the opportunity with Honora, with Mikey Madison. Like it was there. Why did you not have a direct Honora related sketch? I don't know. So I really think that they're going to do it this time because why not do a heated rivalry sketch like with the hockey? I mean, why not go there? So
yeah, and it also feels like the last 3 episodes they've done the most obvious thing, which is that in the Finn episode they hit on Stranger Things conformity theory. Then and obviously heated rivalry. Then the Tiana episode, they did one battle after another action figures. And then in the Alexander Skarsgård episode, they brought back the Norwegian, film sketch with Chloe, and it felt like, okay, like if you were picturing what the episode could look like, that is a sketch that they maybe would bring back, and obviously bringing Stellan Skarsgård into it. So it's interesting to think about. Christian, do you think potentially we may get more heated rivalry content coming up?
I would say definitely heated rivalry related. Something I can maybe see is, I don't know why it's always in my head, but when Emma Stone hosted a while back, they did a Amazing Spider-Man 2, like filming a scene sort of thing. I can maybe see them doing something with Connor, and I'm not really sure, like maybe James or like Mikey Day or something like that in a similar sort of way. But I feel like they kind of have to. Who knows if it like this is probably very likely this is like maybe the only time he'll host. I mean, I would hope it's more than this and it goes well, obviously. But I think you kind of have to touch on it, I would feel.
Sammy, what do you think?
Yeah, I think they'll touch on it somehow. I would be very surprised if they did another heated wizardry sketch, just because I don't know how much more meat is on the bone there.
Ooh.
No pun. I don't know if that's a pun, but I don't know if there's not a ton more there with that concept. I think what would have been cool is if you would sort of, maybe if you knew this hosting appearance was in the works, have one of the guys cameo in that original sketch. I feel like it would have even gone more viral than it did. I almost feel like it didn't go, like in the moment, it felt like it was going to be a huge viral thing. And it felt like it didn't really get there, at least in my algorithm. So, but yeah, I think they'll address it in a different way.
Yeah, I think that could have been something because I believe Connor's story was on Seth that week. So he was in the vicinity of, appearing in something like that. But yeah, I don't think they do anything with heated wizardry. And I definitely don't think we're going to see Finn Wolfhard at the show. But I think that they will find a way to put some heated rivalry content into the show, whether, in another era, I would say for sure the monologue is going to be heated rivalry themed, where there will be some sort of like sexual tension occurring between the host and a cast member. They don't tend to do monologues like that anymore, but I would think that there would be something there. And if not, a hockey sketch could be really fun. I think back to some older eras that did cover hockey a little bit more. Obviously, Wayne Gretzky hosted the show once upon a time. And even like there's a very famous like Robin Williams. I think it's like a Budweiser hockey sketch. So I think it would be cool to add another sports related sketch to the mix, Ajax.
Yeah. Or, we could even go like the Chris Farley, Nancy Kerrigan, or, the synchronized swimmer, something to that effect, and incorporate the Olympics in there too. There's all kinds of different things I could do.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let me go to another question that we have here that I'll throw at the two of you. This comes from Super Future TV, who says, what host and musical guest so far pleasantly surprised you and which felt underwhelming? So out of the episodes that we've had so far, the 12, has there been a host that has surpassed your expectations and one that maybe did not meet your expectations? Christian, I'll start with you on this one. Oh, we lost your audio, Christian. So I want to make sure that we can still hear you. Worst case, if you can't fix it, just hop back out and come back in, and I'll just go to Ajax first on this one.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Oh, we got you. We got you back. Yeah, Christian, go ahead.
Yeah.
Just unmute yourself on StreamYard, and then okay, yeah, Ajax, go ahead, and then we'll get back to Christian.
So Josh O'Connor surprised me. I, only knew him from, what was the Zendaya outfit?
Challengers.
Challengers. That's the only thing I knew him from. And, he's going to be in Disclosure Day now. Like, he's got a huge career ahead of him. I didn't really know what to expect, but I loved his show. I thought he did great. I love his personality. I thought he, really connected with the cast members a lot. And that, to me, that's like going to be the most underrated show of this year. I think going back and looking at it, people are going to be like, oh yeah, this was really good. What were we thinking? So yeah, for me, it's Josh O'Connor. For musical guest, it would be Somber. I had no idea who Somber was. I'm that old guy who's just like, who is Somber? And then, young guy, super tall. And then when he got out there, I'm just like, wow, this is really good. Like, I was shocked. And so, yeah, those are my two.
That makes sense. Christian, do we have you back now?
Yeah, I think I should be good now.
Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, so I generally go into the episode trying to be pretty optimistic about all of them. And I had a pretty optimistic, going into it about Glenn Powell. But to me, he, kind of over shot what even I was expecting from him. To me, he immediately feels like a John Hamm type of guy, even like a Tom maybe too much, but that kind of actor who I don't see him falling off in terms of his career anytime soon. He kind of feels like a modern-ish version of Tom Cruise to me. So he just feels like a guy who's always going to be in the limelight, and a guy who I think 5 to 7 times I think I see him hosting in the future. For musical guest itself, I think Olivia Dean. For me, I had vaguely heard of her before it was announced that she was going to be on. And I heard some songs here and there, but I think she had a really great live performance, and she's kind of been everywhere recently. I think she just won Best New Artist at the Grammys as well. So I had a decent enough idea of her going into it, but I thought she really performed really well for a live audience for sure.
Yeah, I'm completely with you on that. Sammy, any other picks here that haven't been mentioned already?
This is kind of a weird one, and maybe it's because it's been so long since the first time he hosted, but Miles Teller was somebody who, looking back, I thought he did a good job in this first episode, but he was not somebody who I necessarily was craving to, come back and host. And I thought he did a great job in this episode, and is somebody who, I wouldn't mind seeing back a third time. So that was, maybe just as a returning host. I mean, people like Sabrina Carpenter, going into it, I had high expectations, and she met those high expectations. So
I think she exceeded expectations for me, actually, Sabrina. I felt like she was a friend of the show, so she knew how it worked, and she, we saw her in that Scooby-Doo sketch with Jake Gyllenhaal, but and even at the 50th, I guess, performing. But I feel like her episode was so good, start to finish, and even her performances, like her performance of Manchild, I still think is one that people talk about since then. So I'd say that's another pick for sure. Christian, so great to get to hear from you tonight, and appreciate you joining us on the show.
Yeah, great to be back. Definitely be back next time, and yeah, just glad to kind of get past that first time jitters, and I think I'm good.
Yeah, you got it. You got it. You shake them off, and then you come back, and now you're a podcast pro. So appreciate you being here. And Ajax, absolutely a podcast pro with a great setup. So always thankful that whenever you join us.
Well, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. And thanks for the love for Cover Wars. Even though it's not directly SNL related, I love having everybody from the SNN on. So everyone's welcome if you want to hit me up. It's Cover Wars Podcast at Gmail, and you can meet me there.
Absolutely. Always a great listen, Ajax. So thank you both for joining us here tonight. All right, Sammy, let's keep this show rolling. We're doing great. So many great questions, so many great discussion points. So let's bring in two more of our friends here. First, we'll bring in Jared is here. Jared, what's up?
Hey, good to see you guys again. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you great. Always great to hear you. Always great to get your feedback. So joining us as well here in this section of the show is Dan. Dan, what's up, buddy?
What's going on, gentlemen? How's everyone doing?
Doing great. Happy to have you on the show, Dan. Really great to get to speak to you, and very excited. I'm going to be going on Dan's podcast coming up soon.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, if you have ever been curious about what Jon sounds and feels like on the other side of the interview
I don't think they're
table,
going to know what
now
I
is
feel
your
like.
chance.
but
is there
Metaphorically, like
haptic feedback on the
vibes-wise.
podcast?
Yes, metaphorical feelings. But yeah, I'm looking forward to being
Yeah,
with
that
everybody.
I didn't word that properly, even though I kind of regret nothing. But I host a podcast called Soul Radio. Jon is generous enough to donate some of his time. The episode is likely dropping on Friday. Stay tuned.
Very cool. Well, excited to talk to you more tomorrow, Dan, about that as well. And you'll get that, I guess, at the end of the week. But let's talk some SNL while we're here. So, Jared, I'll start with you first. Do you have any questions or comments to Sammy or I about this past month of Saturday Night Live or what is coming up?
Yeah, I've really enjoyed it. Yeah, the Finn Wolfhard episode had some great moments. The Tiana Taylor one had better cut sketches than some that made it on, as you guys have mentioned. And that, shoot, who was the last host?
Alexander Skarsgård.
Skarsgård. Yeah, it was awesome to see just how open he was to just putting on a pink dress and just having fun. You wouldn't expect that out of him necessarily. The question that I thought, so they're going for very, I would say, zeitgeisty hosts right now with and first-time hosts. Like within the last 20, 30 years, what season had the most first-time hosts?
Ooh, I don't have that offhand. I think
Maybe that's
we
a
did a
Mike Murray
chart.
question.
Yeah, probably. I think we did a chart about that. I'll have to send some text out while we're on. I think that one of them was potentially season 46, like at least in modern times, because we had like a lot of people only available for like COVID reasons. They were like weren't shooting projects, so we just got like a very random assortment of hosts. Victor in the chat says season 7. That would make sense as well. I think that that's a good call there because it was a full season. Yeah, I remember that now because it was a full season. It was Dick Ebersol's full first year. I think people didn't necessarily had faith in the show and they knew that Lauren had left. So there's a lot of like random hosts from that season. But in modern times, I would think it's like the COVID year.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Dan, what about you? Any questions or topics that you want to touch on here?
Really quick, because I have already seen a couple of people come to the defense of the Tiana Taylor episode. I was more fascinated by it than anything. I kind of give it a pass with the politics because things happened only hours before air, and it was one of those situations where there was almost like there's very little precedent for how you deal with that late in the game. But I've been a fan of Tiana's music for the last few years, and she was married to Iman Shumpert, who is kind of like royalty in my hometown. He grew up in Oak Park, Illinois. And so I knew who she was, and I loved a lot of her music. I had no idea she acted in any way. I knew she was kind of in that terrible Kim Kardashian show. So I didn't know what to expect going in. And the sketches that aired, I definitely feel like a lot of them left a lot to be desired. But if you treat it like the way music nerds do when they're rearranging tracks on albums, where they're getting rid of a couple of the tracks and then adding like the bonuses or some of the ones that leaked and creating their own version of it, I think you have a solid episode there.
I completely agree. I mean, the worst type of people are the people who watch Saturday Night Live and then they see like a weird episode or a bad episode and they're like, whatever, it sucks, life sucks. And they just like throw it up in the air and they're like, oh, whatever, it's fine. I'm never gonna watch the show again. And like the show can be analyzed in so many ways. You can rearrange the episode. We can talk about what worked, what didn't work. That's the fun of the show. That's why I'm like, when people who work at the show sometimes tell me that they listen to the podcast, there's always a thought of like, ooh, are we too harsh? And then like I'll have some discussions with them and they're like, no, we really appreciated how you kind of like broke everything down and went, talked about it from scratch and like how maybe we could do better in the future. That's the fun of the show, is getting the same way someone loves music to break it all down. And Jared, I know you're the same way because I see all those YouTube comments where you watch the podcast, you give us your notes, and I know you feel similarly about how there's just so many ways to look at a sketch.
Yeah, there definitely is different ways to look at a sketch. And I mean, it definitely hits differently for most people. For example, I know a lot of people loved the James Austin Johnson, Finn Wolfhard sketch where they were father and son. That one I grew up in the 90s. I listened to boy bands here and there, but that one just didn't hit for me. But I know a lot of people really loved it. And I feel bad criticizing the writing because then the question would be, oh, well, can you do better? And the answer is no, I can't. So there's that. But as long as you provide constructive feedback and just not put this sucks, usually people are receptive to it.
Yeah, I think everything is fair game when it comes to analyzing or even criticizing Saturday Night Live sketches, as long as you're not getting personal about anyone on the show or their family or anything they do off of it. Like this is they're not creating SNL in a theater or in a local theater that nobody gets to see it. Like it is broadcast to the public. So they're doing it for people to either say this was great or maybe it wasn't as much. And that's our job.
Very true. One of the cut sketches that I'm disappointed got cut was the mom's camera roll, because I think that would have scored some good points for Tommy.
Yes.
Who needs some points at the moment.
Yeah, he's the one that I think
walking suburban mom sketch. Like I couldn't tell you how many times I've watched that since it dropped on YouTube. It is Tiana's great in it, and just when Chloe shows up in the Iron Man suit, the first time it had me rolling. I don't know what the decision-making process was when it comes to what sketches were cut and which ones were kept, but that was, again, I feel like that's what broke the episode when it aired.
For sure. And I think that that's sort of the fun of it, which is that sometimes, I feel very lucky that I get to go on the Hot Take Show and talk about some of the cut sketches because we have friends who go to Dress and they're able to give us that information. But it's different hearing it from Jon Schneider's mouth versus actually getting to watch and see these sketches and trying to understand the thought process of why they didn't make the show. And that's just another way to look at it. It's another way to analyze it. So I'm totally with you, Dan. I'm fascinated by C+ episodes. They're probably, not as great episodes. They're probably harder to cover, to do 3 episodes of content a week on, than a great episode where we just have so much to just praise the show about.
Yeah.
But I think that they're always really fun in retrospect to look at down the road. Sammy, any thoughts on the discussion? I just want to welcome you back into the podcast.
I'm back from my potty break. I think you guys pretty much covered it. I mean, it is just interesting sort of what makes it into a given episode, but it's also like you said, we're not there, at Dress. I mean, there are things I was fortunate to go to the Lady Gaga show last season for the dress rehearsal, and there were sketches that killed, and I was shocked in making to the live episode and things that made it that I personally would have cut. So it is just these decisions are made behind closed doors, and we'll never know the full reason why certain things did or didn't make it.
Yeah, we won't, but when we do find out, that's really fun. So sometimes that's what's great about getting to talk to cast members or writers or producers and doing some interviews with them just to figure out exactly how this week worked and how it got put together. We got a question from Audrey in our mailbag that said, did the writing also feel poor to you for the Tiana episode? And I would say that the writing in that episode was probably written to the things that Tiana wanted to do in the episode. So I don't know if you would describe that as poor or not, but it really felt like, okay, Tiana wants to sing, Tiana wants to dance, she wants to do things that are maybe a little bit different than one battle after another. So it sort of felt that the writers maybe catered to that, and that was my take from this. But clearly the writing wasn't as consistent as what we got the following week with Alexander Skarsgård that most people seem to praise, right, Dan?
I agree with you to a point. I don't think it was the writing itself catering more to what Tiana wanted more than it was we have seen these sketch premises a million different times. I think you even said it at the Hot Take show, like as soon as you saw her and Keenan at the airport, you knew what time it was. And it honestly, I literally that's when I got up to go to the bathroom. I was like, all right, they're gonna do some song parodies and they're not gonna be great, and I'll have time to grab something to eat. And then and it was a lackluster commercial parody. I feel like I don't think it was Tiana so much as they leaned on tropes they have leaned on to a million different times in the past 10 years. And I don't think it was Tiana so much as maybe then they didn't have as much faith in her as they should have. Because when the times they did give her the opportunity to really test her limits, like the dad at the wedding sketch or the walking mom sketch or the mom's camera, I think she really shined. And I attribute it more to a lack of faith than letting her take the reins. I think they didn't let her take the reins enough.
That is fair. Yeah, that's a different perspective, but I love it. Jared, anything else you want to say or any other questions you got?
Some of the writing on that episode kind of felt forced, like the NFL sketch I felt was somewhat forced, but I know we talked about the whole Alex Preddy shooting happening on that same day, and should they have done something more related to that? But I remember TJ talking on the Hot Take show, and I agree with him that it's better to put in a fully baked sketch than a half-baked sketch that got cut at dress for that week. I know Tiana tried hard, and some of the cut sketches were great. I'm happy she was there, and there'll definitely be some more good episodes coming up. I guess the one question I have now that we're looking, so I'm not as optimistic as Victor. I don't think all 7 of the features are going to survive at the end of the season. With Jane doing better in the last couple of episodes, and the fact that they have only 5 women with the possibility of Chloe leaving at the end of the season, do you think she's enough out of the woods that she would get promoted to repertory player?
I think if the season ended today, yes. It was just that good of a story, that good of a comeback that we had last week, that I feel like everything that I'm seeing is showing me that they want her to succeed at the show, where there was a point where I feel like they didn't give me that at all. So it would be stunning to me now if she didn't come back. However, if she reverts back to the way she was before and we go the next 3 months not seeing her very much, then yeah, I just think that she's probably done everything she can right now to secure a spot in the next season, but she has to get at least, say there's 8 episodes left. It has to have 3 or 4 really good ones to feel like at a minimum to just be like, okay, you're absolutely getting your spot next year. Sammy, anything you want to say about Jane?
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious to see sort of what this break, how that impacts her coming back and everybody coming back to the show. Obviously, we're having a longer than usual break because of the Olympics. Does that help her sort of kind of, take a couple weeks off and kind of come back with some fresh ideas? Or would it have been sort of better timing if she had another show in 2 weeks and can sort of continue building that momentum, right off the bat? But I think she had a really great episode, and I'm hoping that she's able to take the next couple weeks to sort of reset and come back fully, in full force after the Olympic break.
True. Maybe she'll have another Tiny Baby Shoes sketch, which is what I'm convinced saved her from being cut last season.
Yeah, it's definitely possible. I remember like about 8 years ago when it was the Olympics, I think it was season 43, it must have been. And there was a lot of talk about like Luke Null and like what he was going to do. And then like if he was going to have another good episode, because I think he had one right before Christmas. I'm going to say it was like Saoirse Ronan's episode or something like that. And everyone was like, okay, well, if he could just pick up some steam right after the Olympic break. And I think maybe he had like one more good episode. So it's always interesting to see how these like big breaks impact, because you really only get them in Olympic years, except for last year, obviously with SNL 50. But, I want to do a bigger deep dive on that. I feel like that's something that would be great to sit down with Mike Murray about for like a future By the Number show of like, let's look at these like long extended breaks with people who are maybe on the fence and like how they did before and how they did after and what the decisions ended up being. But this was a great discussion with the two of you. So Jared, thank you so much for joining us here tonight.
All right. Yep. Have a good night. And John, you share the same name as the Seahawks GM, so you need to call some restaurants and clubs and get some reservations, man. Say it's.
I'll do my
John.
best. I got a lot of texts last night. I'll say that. So, yeah, there's a lot of Jon Schneiders out there, but there's only one Jon Schneider here. Dan, thank you for joining us as well. Excited to talk to you, buddy, this week, and great seeing you here tonight.
Talk to you tomorrow, my friend.
Absolutely. Appreciate you both. All right, Sam, we got one more pair of patrons joining us here tonight. And last but not least, let's bring them onto the show. First up is Brennan. Brennan, how are you?
Good. He stole my Super Bowl joke. I was going to say the same thing. So, rats.
Just missed it. But
Yep.
yes, happy to see you, Brennan. Always great to have you on the show here tonight. And joining us as well is Max. Max, what's up, man?
Doing well. Nice to be here tonight.
Yeah, happy to have you both on the show. So, Brennan, how are you feeling about some recent SNL, and is there anything that you want to talk to us about tonight?
Oh, I liked the last 3 episodes more than. I mean, 2 out of 3 were really good. I liked the Tiana Taylor episode. I didn't really have as much issue as many did. But I come in every now and then. I'll come in with a low expectation for an episode, and if it passes the low expectations, I'm happy, and it hit the expectations. So. Yeah, I don't have much else to say about that one, except, yeah, it might be the worst of the year, but I thought this has been a pretty good year so far, better than season 50 overall, outside of the season 50 spectacular. But yeah, I thought this is a better season than last season so far.
Yeah, that feels like the general sentiment for sure. Max, what about you? How are you feeling about SNL right now? And let us know if you have any questions for Sammy and I.
Yeah, I liked every episode so far. I mean, I think even when Saturday Night Live is bad, it's more forgettable than bad. It's like you laugh, but then you don't really think about it a lot. Like the Taylor episode, other than the dancing father at the wedding and the action figures, nothing really stuck with me. But I enjoyed it while I was watching, and I laughed at it. But I do believe that the one before and the one after, had much more bang for your buck. And I love the Finn Wolfhard one. I mean, the pre-taped Stranger Things parody, I put that up there with the Grouch Joker parody in pre-taped parodies, and that's one of my favorite of all time. Whether it holds up, I don't know. But I really liked it. And Skarsgård was awesome. Although I could have swore that Peter Skarsgård was their brother, but then I realized the spelling was wrong as well. But I realized I wasn't the only one, which I felt better about that.
Yes, there was a lot of confusion between Sarsgaards and Skarsgards, which thankfully Sammy and I were able to cover the Sarsgard episode on the Patron feed. So happy for that. Max, do you have any questions for Samurai?
Well, one thing I'm very interested is looking at the future 8 episodes, who we might have as hosts. I mean, I know that a lot of people don't like it when athletes host, but I kind of like it because you can see they're either terrible or really, really good, and they'll surprise you. For every Nancy Kerrigan, you have a Peyton Manning. And I was wondering, with the Olympics and with the Super Bowl, do you think we might have another athlete host? Because I was watching the Super Bowl and I was just having SNL flashbacks of Joe Montana. I got bad looks from my dad by making that "I'll be upstairs masturbating" line. That was one of the first SNL sketches I ever saw. And so I was wondering, in these future episodes, I think we might have a returning host. Maybe another cast member. I'd love to see Pete again. Seeing Pete cameo was awesome. I mean, we talked a lot about the previous episodes. I was just wondering, what are you looking forward to, or what would you like in the remaining 8?
Yeah, I think a good balance of men and women certainly is important. I think the season did a really good job with that in the fall for sure. I think the athlete thing is tough because we were saying at the start of the show that like there's not necessarily an athlete that super stands out as being like the one that's just in the dominant zeitgeist in the way that some of the previous athletes were before. I think that there was maybe some juice with like Lindsey Vonn if she had done pretty good.
Yeah.
But yeah, that I think is not going to happen now. So I can't envision an athlete hosting, but I think that there's certainly room for another double duty host. I think we've been getting a couple a year. So Harry Styles is one that I think is in the mix right now for a March episode. That's one that people really loved his episode in season 45. I think he was scheduled to host the season 47 finale and had to drop out at some point. So it had been a few years that SNL had been trying to get him back. I think that would be like a really good choice to have a musician in the mix there. Sammy, any thoughts from you on like what you would like to see over these next 7 episodes past the Connor story one?
Yeah, I mean, a couple people that come to mind, a big movie this summer that's a Universal Pictures movie. So NBC Synergy is Spielberg's next film, Disclosure Day, with Josh O'Connor, and Emily Blunt is the star of that film. Somebody who I can't say I remember her episode that much. I have to Google, has Emily Blunt hosted SNL? And she did back in 2016. So, somebody who is also going to be in The Devil Wears Prada 2. So I think that's somebody who I wouldn't mind seeing come back. Going back to
and she appeared with Ryan Gosling, right? A couple years ago.
Yep.
Yep, exactly. And The Devil Wears Prada too, just going back to that. I mean, Anne Hathaway, I would like to see her have a John Hamm, Jack Black moment from last season, to where somebody who was such a great host and has just been so overdue to come back. She actually has a ton of movies coming out this year. I think she has 6 pretty big movies coming out this year. So I think that would be cool to see. And then last one I want to bring up is Keke Palmer. She has a movie coming out in May, and I thought she was so good when she hosted a couple seasons ago. So I'd love to see her come back.
Well, they just dropped her show on Peacock too, so
yeah, I mean, it would be great to see her again. I think those are all really good choices. You did bring up Ryan Gosling as an option, and I believe he has a pretty big film coming out in March as well. That's Project Hail Mary. So I wouldn't be stunned if we saw him either, especially after Beavis and Butthead popularity. Like they're finally going back to that well. Brendan, what do you want to see for the rest of the season?
Well, if we're talking about athletes, you can always bring in WWE wrestlers, even if they are now movie stars. Like, you get John Cena to host again. He's probably doing something. The Rock, that would be awesome. One of my favorite hosts of all time. 4 episodes so far. Let's get him number 5. So
I think he's in 5.
Oh, he had 5. You're right.
Yeah, he's
You're
a
right.
5-timer. Yeah.
He hit 5. Yes, 6. Make him hit 6.
Although it'd be good to see a new wrestler, like maybe CM Punk or
Yeah, CM Punk would be good. I agree. You get a wrestler. They're good. They're good actors. So that's a good choice. Yeah, I was gonna bring up the only Emily Blunt sketch I remember from her episode is the one where she was the escort, and they all had to be their own characters, or the only reason, or it was Leslie Jones and her, and they had to be specific characters. That's the only thing I remember about that episode. So.
Yeah, I feel like it was the one episode in 2016 in the fall that didn't hit the way that the other ones did. Like, I think it was incredibly like great fall, but that one wasn't the most popular episode. But still, would be cool to get her back, and she did pretty good in Gosling's monologue a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Brennan, do you have any other questions or anything else you wanted to touch on with Sammy and I?
Well, I have our rankings for the Reddit side of things for the entire season so far. If we want to do a bit of a guessing game, but
I don't know if we have time to do the whole rankings, but just do
absolutely.
Let's do a couple. Let's do best. How about that?
Yeah, perfect.
We can guess. Max, you can play with us as well.
Okay.
So we're gonna play a game that Brendan brings on every now and then when he comes on the show, where we guess what the Reddit audience ranked as the best of each portion of the show. So Brendan, best cold open we'll start with.
Yeah, easy. Best cold open.
Wait, so let's guess. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Sammy, do you want to guess first?
Best cold open. I am gonna go. Oof, it's hard to remember. I'm gonna go with the cold open where we have Jazz and Ashley as Christy Nome from a couple episodes ago.
Okay, Max, do you want to make a pick?
I think I still want to say the first one with when we first saw Colin Jost as Hesketh. I mean,
I'm gonna say the one with Shane Gillis and Rami Youssef, the New York City mayoral cold open.
That's pretty good. Our top 2 are the Pentagon press conference from the Melissa McCarthy episode. Then it's the Pete Hegseth one where, oh boy, it's the Pete Hegseth one from the Bad Bunny episode, right? The first episode of the year. And then we had the ice meeting was top 3 for you.
Okay, pretty good. Let's do monologues. So I think maybe the best monologue of the year is the Skarsgård one that just happened with the band, but I'll also throw a vote for Glenn Powell's because I think
I was going to say Glenn Powell as well. I mean, that was just a treat.
Yeah, him bringing up that UPS driver was kind of crazy. Sammy, are you with us on that?
Yeah, those are great picks. The one other one I want to shout out is I actually really like the Ariana Grande singing monologue with the Christmas song. So I'm wondering if that's up there as well.
I'll shout out also Finn Wolfhard's as an option with he brings up the guys from Stranger Things. So maybe that's in the top 3. Brennan, let us know.
You ended up hitting all the top 4. It was Glenn Powell, then Finn Wolfhard, then Ariana Grande, then Skarsgård. So that's pretty good.
Amazing. What do you want to do next?
Oh, we can do sketch. Best sketch.
Okay, so best live sketch is what we're going with?
Yes, yeah. I got to separate them. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do you guys want to make a pick? Max, you got anything?
There's so many. I want to say, although I'm trying to remember if it was live or pre-taped, the lawyer sketch.
Brilliant Lawyers. That's
in the Polar. Yeah, I want to say that, but I can't remember if that was a pre-tape or a live sketch.
That was a live sketch, so that would certainly qualify. I will say it has to be Mom's Confession. I mean, I don't know if the recency bias will do the opposite effect of not giving enough votes, but I feel like this sketch that we just got with Ashley Padilla talking to her kids was the best sketch of the season for me, at least. Sammy, what do you think?
I think that I don't know if this is one of the best sketches of the season for me personally, but I think the Bowen goodbye sketch probably got a lot of votes just because it was Bowen's goodbye. So I would put that in there, and then I would also put in the fart sketch from Sabrina Carpenter's episode.
Yeah, and the other one I'll throw in, Brendan, before you reveal the results is you got to get Pinwheel in there somewhere, and I feel like Reddit loves Pinwheels.
I love Pinwheel. That's my favorite of the year so far. But you hit him right on the nose again. Mom's Confession was #1 on the year so far, and there might be some recency bias, but it's literally only 6 votes between Mom's Confession and Max. You got it right. The Experienced Lawyer was #2. It was #1 pretty much the whole season until Mom's Confession showed up last episode. So I got Pinwheel at #6, and I have Surprise at #11 on my list. So
okay,
top tier sketches right there.
Pre-tapes I feel like are tougher. I think that we're gonna have a lot more trouble with that. I'll throw a vote. Are they separate into categories with pre-tapes, or it's just like all digital?
I didn't. I just did all digital. Yeah.
Okay. I'll say that the highest voted one is Heated Wizardry. I feel like I would go with that. Max, you got one?
Still, my favorite is Stranger Things. I mean, the Sex and the City parody, the like Gangster's Paradise kind of parody with Steve Harrington. Every parody was spot on. Even the parody of the Lost ninth episode. So I'm going to say enough Stranger Things. Pick that.
I think my vote here is going to be, it was the Trump Property Brothers sketch. That was this season, right? Okay.
Miles Tellers, yeah.
It's hard to keep track of time these days, but I'm going to go with that one.
Yeah, I'll throw out some other ones just while we're at it. I think that Reddit's going to love Cousin Planet. I think they're also going to love Gone Without a Trace from the Miles Teller episode. That one for sure has to be up there. And then, yeah, all right, let's go with that, Brendan.
So this is the first time we've gone a little astray. I heard 2 that are actually in the bottom half. So I'm surprised as much as you are, Max, but Stranger Things promo is in the bottom half of the year for pre-tapes. And then also Cousin Planet's down there too. It hit well with me. I'm a big Ari Gex fan. So, but the #1 on the year and also the #1 thing this entire season so far is the Plans pre-tape. The horror movie from the Sabrina Carpenter episode. Yeah,
that's surprising.
I know it's out of left field, but Home Alone's above it or right below it, and then Heated Wizardry #3 on there. So,
okay,
yeah, that was a bit of a weird one. So,
okay,
let's just do
let's
update.
rapid fire.
Update.
I do have one question that I want to ask you guys. Game show parodies. Do you think they're funny? Do you think they're an easy laugh, an easy sketch? I love them, and I this past month I recorded all the game show parodies, 229 over the 50 years.
Yeah,
I
that
didn't
sounds
know
right.
if baking shows would be considered a game show parody or not, so I didn't include them. But it's kind of funny when you look back. And we've only had one this year so far, and that was in the premiere with the Jeopardy. No, we had two. We had the Jeopardy and we had the dating show.
Yeah.
With so I was wondering what you thought about game shows.
I think actually we had 3 though. Because we also had
I'll find it.
We had the Halloween one. What did I do last night?
Halloween, hungover Halloween.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And Let's Find Love from the Josh O'Connor episode. I mean, look, Max, I think they're funny. I think there was times in SNL history where they leaned too heavily on game shows because they were an easy format. But I don't know that. I think that they work.
I think they're doing it well. Yeah.
Yeah, I think if we got 5 or 6 game show sketches a season, I think that's totally fair game. So I think it's a great question and something that I like. Brendan, let's rapid fire the update. So I feel like I'll just throw it out here. I feel like the update has to be 2 people who just hooked up the first one.
Yes.
And if not, Mr. On Blast.
You got it. It was 2 people who just hooked up. It was the first one. It was exactly right. But my one thing I want to say about game shows is that they should be easy. They should be easy. This year they haven't hit. I don't think any of the 3 have really hit for me. They should be easy, but they haven't hit them. They haven't hit this year. So that's it.
Yeah,
and
the
then
only
also,
one that hit for me was a dating show, just because Ashley. I mean, Ashley's just a goddess of character work.
Yeah, that's fair. Sammy, anything else you want to say about the game show question?
I mean, I love game show sketches, especially when you have somebody on the cast that could be such a good game show host, whether that be Keenan or Bill Hader. But I do want to throw out one for the weekend update poll. I think Trend Forecasters is definitely up there. And I had another one and it's gone. So I'm going to stick with that.
But yeah, Mr. On Blast was 4, Trendsetters was 6, so they're up there. Movie Guy was last place, but that was terrible. That was so bad.
I could do without that anymore.
Yeah.
But Brendan, always appreciate catching up with you and you bringing in these stats for us. So hopefully we can touch base towards the end of the season again. So get the final records of what Reddit feels about the best and the worst of the season.
Oh, absolutely. And then if you go on the Reddit, there's a link for especially this newest sketch sorting Sunday. It should be still at the top of the subreddit. If it's not, it's on the sidebar. There's a link in there, and I literally linked every single SNL sketch from the season. So if you just want to look at it, you say, "Oh, I recognize this one." You just click it. I linked them all up there. It's a nice, easy format to read. So
that's awesome. Thanks, Brendan. Appreciate you. And Max, always a pleasure. Happy you got to join us.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Yeah, thank you both, and a great surprise visitor at the end.
Yeah,
of the show
hi.
here tonight. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you, Max, and thank you, Brendan.
Wow.
All right,
that was
Sammy.
great.
That was great. Great way to end the show here tonight. But it's not over yet. We do have some more questions from the mailbag. Can we just do some quick rapid fire, Sammy?
Of course.
Okay. I'll throw some things at you. We'll try and get through these. Mason said, "Is it time to talk about Weekend Update? I was surprised that Jostin Chase chose to stay on the season in the first place. I'm already thinking about the future. What do you think the future of Weekend Update is with Jostin Chase, and which of the current new cast do you think is most poised to take over?" So not a lot of conversation about replacement update host this year since Longfellow left, I feel like. I feel like the Jostin Chase fire has kind of cooled. Any thoughts here?
Yeah, I think last season was sort of we all sort of had it marked on our calendars as like, okay, they're gonna stay through the 50th and then leave. And now I think I'm done predicting that they're gonna leave. I kind of feel like in how the late night TV landscape has kind of changed, I feel like they're almost in a Keenan-esque position where like they're gonna just go when they sort of want to go, and I don't think they're necessarily in a hurry at this point.
I'm completely with you. I think I said this at the preseason. I think that we've gone from, okay, who's going to leave after the 50th to who's going to stick it out as long as Lauren is there. And I think that that's what's happening potentially here with the update, guys. So I don't see anything changing for the near future. This one comes from Tran, who asks, how excited are you about SNL UK premiering in March? Tran, I am so excited about SNL UK premiering in March. So can't wait for that one. More coverage to come as soon as we get more information from the team at SNL UK. This one comes from Chris Roel, who says, has any cast member been promoted mid-season? I feel like Ashley is more than deserving. So it's certainly a sentiment that's pretty widespread among the community. This last happened, I believe, with Amy Poehler back in the day in 2001. But yeah, it's not something that I think is going to be happening this season. There's no doubt that Ashley is deserving. And I think everyone at the show would say that Ashley is deserving. I just can't imagine them doing that and not promoting Jane. That was always my take on this. And I do believe, Sammy, that had they promoted Ashley mid-season, Jane would not have had the January that she had. I think it would be so demoralizing to her.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess going back to that question, do you think if Jane had not come back and Ashley was the sole sort of returning featured player, do you think that was something that was still could have been in the cards of her getting that mid-season promotion? Because I kind of see it as it just feels like it's you do your 2 years in the featured player camp and you're not, no matter how well you're doing, that's just sort of how it is, how the show is formatted these days.
I'm not on the side of like how much money everybody's making. I think that becoming a repertory player comes with more money, and Ashley no doubt is deserving. I don't know how it works with regards to like producers at the show calling up NBC, Universal, and going into the budget and finding more money for somebody who maybe isn't necessarily asking for it. Because I think there's like, I don't know, I'm not there. I don't think there's a high chance that Ashley went into somebody's office and was like, promote me. So there's that. But yeah, had she been the only second-year player and was doing what she did, I could see her getting promoted. I could also see them not promoting her because they don't want to set the precedent of always having to promote somebody in the middle of a season when they decide to lean on them. So I think there is sort of two sides to this. Look, we're 12 episodes into this thing. She's going to be potentially reigned as the greatest feature player ever, or having the greatest season for a feature player ever. So that's kind of cool. And we'll focus on her being a main or a repertory player next year. This one comes from DJ Chicken Parm, who asks, which one of the new writers has had the most success so far this season? I think it's Jack Benzinger. I've been looking through the writing credits a little bit to be able to properly answer this question, but he came in as sort of a friend of Sarah, and he's been really writing on a lot of sketches. The new writers have had, some appearances here and there. I feel like we haven't seen too much of their influence on the show. I think that the strongest, probably like distinct writing that we've seen from a new writer this season was perhaps in the Amy Poehler episode. We saw Claire McFadden's sketch, the emo mom sketch, which I thought was really great, but still, I think a little bit too early to judge which writers are succeeding or not. And I think that's maybe an end of season conversation. I'll be curious who they end up keeping, but I feel like we got a better vibe of Carl Tart's writing, or Moss Pericone, or Ali Levitan, like after last year and into this year, when they seem to be blending more with other writing duos. This one comes from Super Future TV, says, do you think that SNL US will make a sketch about SNL UK in the second half of the season? I'm gonna say no. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think the only thing I could potentially see is like a throwaway Weekend Update joke, or maybe if you end up having like a British host in the back half of the season while SNL UK has started, like having some reference to that in the monologue, but no sketch dedicated to it.
Yeah, I highly doubt it. I mean, if somebody ends up hosting, I mean, I guess the timeline wouldn't necessarily work out, but if someone like hosts SNL UK and then they host SNL US, I think they maybe reference it. I think at some point, like if the shows are running at the same time, like next year they get like a 12 episode order or more for SNL UK season 2, like there is a possibility there's some blending. I think in like another era of the show, they would have a lot more fun with it, where perhaps they would do some sort of like alternate universe thing where there would be a pre-tape where SNL US and SNL UK cast members interact with each other. But I think the show needs to become more established and probably needs to disassociate from the pressure of SNL US for at least those first few episodes. So yeah, I can't see it necessarily right now. This conspiracy theory comes from Avi.moment, who says, do you think the updated cast headshots might indicate who is leaving or staying? So SNL has been slowly rolling out new headshots for cast members. We got Sarah and Marcelo and Chloe and James the last few weeks. Do you think this has any indication as to their status with the show?
I just love these are the type of conspiracy theories that I sort of navigate to, not
I love a good conspiracy theory.
Yeah, not the 4chan rabbit holes, but yeah, I mean, I saw this on Twitter. I think the people who don't have headshots are Jost, Shay, Dismukes, and Mikey. I think those are the 4. So again, we just talked about, Shay and Jost. I think the fact that they don't have headshots sort of indicates that this theory doesn't hold a lot of weight, because I kind of feel like at this point they're going to come back next season.
Yeah, and not to make this about me, genuinely, but is there a through line to me podcasting with Mary Ellen Matthews and banging on the table and asking her why they don't take new headshots of the cast members every season so that we get updated photos year to year? And then all of a sudden, most of the new cast members got new headshots this year. I feel like it's just a little coincidental.
Yeah. Keep putting your thumb on the scale,
Yes. Yeah, it was like when I told what was it, the guy from the set design that we spoke to, and I was like, please get some sort of Buck Henry reference in the 5 Timers Club sketch. So yeah, I'll I do what I can for the SNL community. All right, we covered this one pretty well from JM Dunn 1027. Will any Olympians host? I think it's too early to tell on that. I mean, I'd say highly unlikely. Is it possible we get one of those, like, what was that breakdancer from the summer that Rachel Dratch played on Fallon?
Right. I don't remember their name.
Yeah. Yes. Someone in the chat will
Didn't
definitely
Chloe
know.
play her as well, or Chloe did it on like Instagram, maybe?
I think Chloe did it on Instagram. I don't think she played her Ray Gunn. Thank you, Alice. Yeah. Ray. I don't think she played Ray Gunn on the show. But yeah, is it possible? Yeah, is it possible? Like, I think Andy Samberg on Seth's show played that guy who like was doing the like jumping over the bar thing, and then his like crotch got stuck on the bar. Like, there's always going to be like weird Olympic moments. I think that something would really have to go like insanely viral for them to consider bringing somebody out to host the show from the Olympics. And I'm pretty sure the March hosts are already booked. So for them to then go to April, it would be a pretty big stretch. But it's something I think people would consider. And speaking of athletes, we covered it a couple times tonight, but I do believe there's like a large clamoring for Simone Biles. Is it possible after the LA Olympics in 2028 that's a consideration? If she's participating there, then certainly something would be interesting. This one comes from SNL Super Fanatic, who said, which sketches of the past 2 seasons would make the best movies? Do you have any picks for any movies from the sketches from last 2 seasons?
I mean, I think the obvious answer is a Domingo movie, which I honestly think would maybe make a better movie than a sketch, just like Marcelo sort of just having a whole character just to sort of get into wacky sort of situations. I don't know.
Yeah, I think so, but I don't know. Maybe Snack Homies would be a good one as a movie. Like, is there some sort of like follow it, like a sort of like a teen show where the kids are like at school and then they go like perform, like they go like do their podcast after? Is there some sort of like Hot Rod-esque movie with the Snack Homies? That's something I would consider. But yeah, that's a good pick there. Last question comes from Larebi _ said, do you want to see Lonely Island host or as a musical guest? Obviously, anytime Andy Samberg's in the building is always fun. This is a fun question. I guess we got a lot of Lonely Island podcast fans, Sammy. We were talking in the pre-show about my thoughts on the podcast. But what do you think?
About the podcast or them hosting? Because
the answer to the question for Larebi.
Yeah, I mean, imagine if I said no. That would just be out of character. No, I think that'd be amazing. I think, if they ever have another movie, obviously Yorm at this point is recovering from his injury. So I just want them to go on tour. I missed their tour a couple years back.
I missed their podcast.
You missed their podcast? Yeah.
I missed their podcast. What happened to that podcast?
Me and John, before the show, were talking about their podcast. I'm very behind. I just listened to the Laser Cats 5 episode with Bill Hader. Fantastic episode. But John, you had a hot take that, I think it's good to have in the back half of this episode. What was your hot take?
Yeah, I'll save this for the end. There's no bigger fan of the Lonely Island than me. I'll just say that. I mean, there probably are. But like I'm saying, I'm a huge Lonely Island fan. Such an influence. I've argued that they should be absolutely, no doubt, SNL Hall of Famers. I love their podcast. It was my favorite podcast. I don't know what happened to their podcast. They spend 97% of the podcast talking about New York Times games and things that like coffee and like random stuff. And then they're like, oh, we have a digital short to talk about. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, it was DVD commentary for SNL episodes, and the shark has been jumped.
It's so interesting because I guess I'm like 4 months behind. Would you say that this has happened recently, or this happened a couple months ago? Like, can you pinpoint exactly a specific?
I have to go through my
episode?
text, but like at some point, I texted some people and I was like, I think that the podcast has gotten weird. Like, I think it's just mostly inside jokes now, and like every now and then we get an absolute gem, but I saw this happen with Fly on the Wall, where when that show first started, they were interviewing
that's
like
rough.
Tina and Lauren, and like everybody was like, "This is the greatest podcast ever." And then it was like, and I'm not saying that's what's happening, but like I was at the 50th red carpet last year. I interviewed Yorma. I think there was like some weird background stuff going on because like right before the show started, so we didn't end up putting it in the the compilation. But I spoke to him and I was like, "This is the greatest podcast ever. Don't ever stop it. Please go through every single sketch that was on the show, even if you weren't a part of it. Like, we just want Seth's take. He was the head writer. Like, we love this show." And then like they had like Seth's Corner. It's all gone. I don't know what happened.
I guess we'll. I will text you the moment I feel like it has sort of passed the threshold there, because in the episodes I'm on, they did a whole bit on how, they tried to have Andy do his Nick Cage impression on Update, without the Get in the Cage segment. And they go all in on that, and they play stuff from that and sort of talk about how it sort of worked better once they brought in the celebrity cameo. Like, I still feel like I'm still in the best of times. So to know that, there's something down the line that, may may go another way is a little sad. So
Okay,
I guess I'll let you know when I get there. But I'm
Yeah,
still
like, I'm not
loving
saying
it.
it's not.
I'm still a proud member of Quaid Army.
I would rather have the podcast than not have it at all. And I'm a proud member of Quaid Army, but I just am missing when they actually talked about the episodes. So,
You have some notes. You would like to step in and produce and get them on track.
yeah, just give me like 5 minutes with Seth. That's it. Just like I'd be like, okay, can we just talk for a second? Because we want to get inside your brain. Anyways, yes. Would I love to see them back at the show? I'll take anything we can get from Lonely Island on SNL. Host, digital short, musical
And
guest.
where's
whatever.
that album? They said they had an album. Where is it?
I feel like Sushi Glory Hole was supposed to be the first single on an album that we never ended up getting. But
yeah.
We'll see. All right. Well, this was a blast tonight. I really want to sincerely thank everybody who gave their time to come join the show here and call in to the podcast. Such a pleasure to get to chat with all of you. I am so amazed by all of your SNL knowledge and the thoughts that you bring to the show. So please continue to call back. And if you're thinking about calling in for a future show, patreon.com/the SNL Network. We put those sign-up forms about once a month to come and join us on a show. Always appreciate everybody supporting the SNN. Sammy, such a pleasure to have done this show with you for almost 3 hours.
John, it's always a pleasure to talk to our great patrons and talk to you about everything going on in SNL. You guys can find me at that Sammy K on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Letterboxd. I'm going to pull a page out of TJ's book and give a recommendation. You guys should definitely check out the new Rachel McAdams movie, Send Help, with Dylan O'Brien, directed by Sam Raimi. Such a blast, such a fun thriller. It's got some dark comedy to it. Definitely check that out in theaters with a packed crowd. You will not regret it. And then, yeah, I mean, if you are a patron, you know about the podcast me and John are doing, 20 years look back on season 31. We're about halfway through the season, but you can definitely go back and check the backlog of episodes if you sign up for the Patreon. It's been a blast to go back down memory lane and see sketches that I've seen before and haven't, some that I haven't seen. So it's been a lot of fun.
It's been a lot of fun. Excited for the Natalie Portman episode in just a few weeks. So we'll get to that soon. We'll also get to the Connor Story episode in about 2.5 weeks from now. But before we get there, we have other fun things happening on the show. So I think this is happening next week. I can announce it that we do have an episode of SNL Stories coming up. Sammy, is it safe? You think we can say who it is? If it doesn't pan out, it's not our fault.
It feels pretty safe.
Okay. All right. Well, we're scheduled to talk to Alex Moffat and have Alex Moffat on SNL Stories next Monday night. So that will be very fun to catch up with Alex. Obviously, one of our favorite cast members when we first started doing this podcast. So to get to chat with him about his time at the show, returning for the 50th, that'll be great. So excited to talk to him at some point in the next few days and hopefully get that to you next Monday. We're also very close to finishing everything you need to know about SNL season 25, which we plan to drop before we get back to new SNL episodes. So more fun things happening here on the channel. Of course, we get new SNL UK news. We'll come back for that and, hopefully get the March hosts officially announced at some point. So to never miss anything happening here on the SNN, subscribe to the podcast, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. You can also follow us at the SNL Network to see everything we have on our social media accounts about SNL and all of the things that are happening with season 51. I want to thank Late Nighter for being the presenting partner of our pod here tonight. Everybody in the live chat for hanging out and all the patrons once again. So on behalf of Sammy K and myself, Jon Schneider from the SNN, we will see you next time, everybody. Have a good one.